Good morning, this is the News Wire. I'm Leah Ubaga. The Trump administration in the US on Tuesday moved to halt the supply of life-saving drugs for HIV, malaria and TB in countries supported by USAID. A memo sent to contractors and partners working with USAID instructed them to stop work immediately as part of a broader freeze on USAID and funding that began after Trump's inauguration last week. This signals the end of the life-saving PEPFAR program, a casualty of the new order from Washington. PEPFAR has been crucial in saving lives and preventing millions of HIV infections. Health Cabinet Secretary Deborah Barraza, however, says the government is exploring alternative funding after the US withdrew from the World Health Organization and stopped HIV-related aid.
I have tasked the various state departments, the various programs and directors that have been involved or that will be affected by this, so that we can be able to map out and look at the impact in matters finances, in matters human resource, etc. And with this, we'll come up with a concrete way forward in terms of interventions, of which we'll be able to share with the Cabinet, His Excellency the President of the Republic of Kenya, and see how we can move forward in matters intervention.
WHO representative in Kenya, Dr. Abdurrahmane Diale, on his part, has expressed the need for continued cooperation among East African member states in order to address the challenges of improving health services.
Now it's time for us to come together, strengthen our partnership, strengthen our ways of working together, and recognize that no country can do this in isolation. And furthermore, you mentioned resource mobilization. We all know the environment we are in, the context we are in, so it's critical to strategically think about ways of mobilizing resources, securing resources, to make sure that our health challenges are addressed.
And the USAID and Kenya have worked together since 2003 under the PEPFAR program, providing HIV testing kits, medicines and medical supplies. This partnership has helped prevent approximately 270,000 HIV-related deaths and 26 million others globally. Kiambu County Education Office has received about 150 names of candidates wishing to receipt the Kenya Certificate of Secondary Education exams scheduled for July 2025. The exams, which are organized by NEC, are aimed at individuals who missed their national exams or wish to retake them to improve their grades. Kiambu Sub-County Director of Education, Consolato Wanjiru, urged the public to seize the opportunity, noting that the final KCSE exams under the 844 curriculum will be administered in 2027. NEC announced that the process will close on February 21st and there'll be no provision for late registration of candidates once the portal is closed. National Assembly Clerk Samuel Njoroge has urged departmental committees to expedite the processing of more than 200 pending legislative proposals. Speaking at the start of the 2025 midterm retreat by the National Assembly in Naivasha, Nakuru County, Njoroge expressed concern over the backlog, calling it a worrying trend. The 2025 midterm retreat, attended by all MPs of the 13th Parliament, was officially opened by National Assembly Speaker Moses Wetangula, who outlined plans to save the National Government Constituency Development Fund, including amendments to the Constitution. He also defended the NGCDF, saying it's been instrumental in funding grassroots projects and should be saved before it ceases to operate on the 30th June 2026 at midnight.
One ensuring legal issue that we must address in this retreat is the issue regarding the National Government Constituencies Development Fund, NGCDF. You recall that last year, the High Court declared NGCDF Act unconstitutional and held that the fund and all its projects and programs shall cease to operate next year. This matter has certainly far-reaching implications for service delivery to our people.
That's the News Wire. I'm Leah Ubaga.
102.5 SpiceFM, Kisumu.
Looking to upgrade your kitchenware, furniture, or electronics? We've got the best deals for you. Digger Shop, your one-stop online store for electronics, furniture, kitchenware, and more. Buy online now and enjoy fast and convenient countrywide delivery in just 48 hours. Here's the best part. Every Saturday from 6:30 p.m. you get exclusive discounts on your favorite items during Shop.Digger Show on KTN. So why wait? Visit shop.digger.co.ke and experience convenience at your fingertips. Digger Shop. Fast, easy, affordable.
Are you ready to unleash your creativity and dive into the dynamic world of media? Then listen up. At Standard Talanta Academy, a collaboration between Talanta Institute and Standard Group, we are redefining the rules of the game. With our Media Mastery course, you'll embark on a journey that goes beyond the ordinary. From TV and film production, photography to digital journalism, our curriculum is designed to equip you with the skills needed to thrive in today's media landscape. But we are not just about theory, we are about action. Our hands-on approach means you will be creating, producing, and innovating from day one. And with Standard Group, home to KTN, Radio Maisha, SpiceFM, and the Standard newspaper, you'll have unparalleled access to industry expertise and real-world opportunities. So, if you're ready to turn your passion into profit, join us at Standard Talanta Academy and unlock your full potential. Visit www.talanta.ac.ke or call 0724 468 468 for more information. Standard Talanta Academy. Unleash creativity.
Are you a young person looking to unlock your potential? Are you ready to take the future in your hands? If so, then listen up. KCB to Jejiri is the plan. It's designed to empower young people like you, develop skills and knowledge you need to succeed in life. KCB to Jejiri combines vocational skills training, business development training, access to finance and business mentorship, preparing youth for jobs, entrepreneurship and wealth creation. Don't be left out. Visit kcbgroup.com/foundation to learn more.
Are you ready to become Kenya's next biggest music star? Do you have what it takes to compete with the best and walk away with over 1 million Kenyan shillings in grand prizes? Auditions are open for Kenya Star Search on Saturday 1st of February and Sunday 2nd February at the Nairobi City Charter Hall from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Come through and show us what you're made of. Proudly sponsored by Skiza, Techno Kenya, Sunlink, Wairimu Kenya, and Boomplay.
Are you ready to unleash your creativity and dive into the dynamic world of media? Then listen up. At Standard Talanta Academy, a collaboration between Talanta Institute and Standard Group, we are redefining the rules of the game. With our Media Mastery course, you'll embark on a journey that goes beyond the ordinary. From TV and film production, photography to digital journalism, our curriculum is designed to equip you with the skills needed to thrive in today's media landscape. But we are not just about theory, we are about action. Our hands-on approach means you will be creating, producing, and innovating from day one. And with Standard Group, home to KTN, Radio Maisha, SpiceFM, and the Standard newspaper, you'll have unparalleled access to industry expertise and real-world opportunities. So, if you're ready to turn your passion into profit, join us at Standard Talanta Academy and unlock your full potential. Visit www.talanta.ac.ke or call 0724 468 468 for more information. Standard Talanta Academy. Unleash creativity.
Are you a young person looking to unlock your potential? Are you ready to take the future in your hands? If so, then listen up. KCB to Jejiri is the plan. It's designed to empower young people like you, develop skills and knowledge you need to succeed in life. KCB to Jejiri combines vocational skills training, business development training, access to finance and business mentorship, preparing youth for jobs, entrepreneurship and wealth creation. Don't be left out. Visit kcbgroup.com/foundation to learn more.
Looking to upgrade your kitchenware, furniture, or electronics? We've got the best deals for you. Digger Shop, your one-stop online store for electronics, furniture, kitchenware, and more. Buy online now and enjoy fast and convenient countrywide delivery in just 48 hours. Here's the best part. Every Saturday from 6:30 p.m. you get exclusive discounts on your favorite items during Shop.Digger Show on KTN. So why wait? Visit shop.digger.co.ke and experience convenience at your fingertips. Digger Shop. Fast, easy, affordable.
Are you ready to unleash your creativity and dive into the dynamic world of media? Then listen up. At Standard Talanta Academy, a collaboration between Talanta Institute and Standard Group, we are redefining the rules of the game. With our Media Mastery course, you'll embark on a journey that goes beyond the ordinary. From TV and film production, photography to digital journalism, our curriculum is designed to equip you with the skills needed to thrive in today's media landscape. But we are not just about theory, we are about action. Our hands-on approach means you will be creating, producing, and innovating from day one. And with Standard Group, home to KTN, Radio Maisha, SpiceFM, and the Standard newspaper, you'll have unparalleled access to industry expertise and real-world opportunities. So, if you're ready to turn your passion into profit, join us at Standard Talanta Academy and unlock your full potential. Visit www.talanta.ac.ke or call 0724 468 468 for more information. Standard Talanta Academy. Unleash creativity.
Are you a young person looking to unlock your potential? Are you ready to take the future in your hands? If so, then listen up. KCB to Jejiri is the plan. It's designed to empower young people like you. Develop skills.
Are you ready to become Kenya's next biggest music star? Do you have what it takes to compete with the best and walk away with over 1 million Kenyan shillings in grand prizes? Auditions are open for Kenya Star Search on Saturday 1st of February and Sunday 2nd February at the Nairobi City Charter Hall from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Come through and show us what you're made of. Proudly sponsored by Skiza, Techno Kenya, Sunlink, Wairimu Kenya, and Boomplay.
Good morning and welcome to Wednesday. Take a quick look at what's happening on the streets as we get into it this morning. A little bit of traffic starting to build up on the thicker superhighway, but we're not seeing anything that's going to rock you off, at least not for now. The heavens have not opened, but we're likely to see some rain later, so it's likely to slow things down. There is some traffic that's coming off of Kangunda Road, and it's probably going to see how it can cross over into Outer Ring and then touch on Manyanja and then go towards Jogoo Road. As you're coming off Mombasa Road, you're doing all right. There's some traffic on Langata Road as you approach the city centre. So we're going to keep an eye on all of this and see what happens as we get to Wednesday, into the middle of the week, hump day, and through to the end. Let's talk through it. SpiceFM KE on X, hashtag The Situation Room.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Good morning. It's 13 minutes after 6 o'clock, and here we are on this, I was going to say bright and sunny Wednesday, but it actually kind of looks kind of gloomy outside. The rains have decided that they're coming, that they're here. It's the short rains, long rains, I don't even know, but hey, it's rains. Abi?
It's the rains.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yesterday, it wasn't rain, my friend. It was a deluge.
I'm telling you,
man, the heavens opened up. And man, did they open up. And yet there are parts of this particular metropolis that did not even see a drop.
Exactly.
A drop.
A drop of anything.
Nope.
Yep.
Some saw a drop of dust.
There was a proverb. Even if you're king, you're not king over the thumb. That was that we did a couple of weeks ago. But essentially that you're not the one who decides what rains upon what.
No.
Yeah.
You can fool yourself into thinking you are. Reality is that you are not.
You are not the one.
Nope.
Who decides how it's going to rain.
No, you are not. You is not the one.
Okay. So you're well though?
I am very well. It's just, it is very cold.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it is cold.
It is.
It is. This cold can be good.
It can.
It can be good.
Okay.
You know the thing about my age, is that when you look around, it suddenly occurs to me that I keep losing my age mates. I lost one recently.
Yeah, you said so.
I told you about it. Gentleman by the name of Kanja Waruru was in India, passed away. And she'll be buried this Saturday. You cannot help but reflect when your age mate passes away.
I imagine.
It's not just an age mate, this is a classmate.
I imagine.
So you wonder, hey, okay, we are going, are we?
Oh, so what you're asking yourself the question that for whom does the bell toll?
Yes. That is the question that you keep asking yourself, because it brings home the reality that you have entered that bracket of people who are in queue to exit.
CT, that's such a morbid thought.
No. It is not a morbid thought. It's just a simple reality.
Well, I know it's a reality, but it's just something that you don't want to. You know, some people just don't like to speak of it.
Actually, that's the point, really. These are things you must speak about.
Isn't it, though?
Yes.
You have to.
No, these are things you must talk, because speaking about it means planning for it, understanding it, and understanding that there are things you probably need to do.
Yeah.
It's important.
Yeah.
Yes.
It is. I guess that's the message. It is important to talk about it. It is important to plan for it. It is important to, have others around you greet the reality, of it. What? Say Lucas. Okay, good morning to everybody else who's joined us today, getting into Kenya's biggest conversation for this morning. Let me tell you some of the conversations that we will have today. At 7 a.m., we will have the the principal secretary in the so there is the Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment, right? MITI. But he is the PS Trade, and that is Alfred Ombudo. He'll join us and we'll be talking about the Kenya-UAE Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement. So there's been talks for some time. What exactly does this mean? What have Kenya and the UAE agreed on? UAE being the United Arab Emirates. That's a conversation that we will have at 7 o'clock. At 8 o'clock, we will talk with Ivan Zogada. He's an advocate and a law lecturer, and we'll be looking at the law and the constitution. Is devolution eating its children? That's the question that we'll be asking today, and looking at the different aspects of devolution and what it actually means. As it was set up to be, is it actually consuming itself? So that's a conversation that we will have at 8. And then at 9, we'll talk different issues with you, and there'll be top of the agenda conversations that are happening in the country, and so that will be an opportunity for us to talk amongst ourselves. That will happen at 9 a.m. and as we get into it this morning, I can see you all trickling in. The live streams are up, YouTube, Facebook, and on X. Hashtag the Situation Room. And as we get into a couple of conversations this morning, we just want to say karibu sana. All right, Mark Bichachi will be here at some point. Abi? Okay, somewhere. And we'll continue with him with that. But in the meantime, CT, today's proverb, shall we?
Yes, we are in the United Republic, a republic that is united. Yes, it is united, really. Rather large country, 120 communities living and speaking in that particular country, and yet the Kiswahili language unites all of them. This country, my friend, has very many wonderful things. Africa is a wonderful place. Every country has wonderful things. It has one of the very, very unique features is what you call a freestanding mountain. Most mountains are part of a mountain range.
Oh, right. I was going to say,
yeah. Rwenzori, range. Yeah. When you hear Ngong, it's not Ngong Hill. It's Ngong Hills.
Even Everest is in a range.
It's in a range. Yeah. Yes. Kilimanjaro, stand him alone.
Stand him by itself.
Him
by herself.
Yes. Kilimanjaro, Tanzania.
Bas.
Okay? Now, when you're talking about the cradle of mankind, and you are looking at man, the origins, and you are trying to understand what Darwin was all about. Well, Olduvai Gorge, which is in Tanzania, helps you also figure these things out. Yes, some things were found there that tell you that actually this place called Africa, cradle of mankind. Yes, something of that sort. Okay. The place is called Ngorongoro Conservation Area.
Yeah.
It's a UNESCO heritage site. I'm mentioning this so that when you hear Tanzania, don't just think land mass. No, think diversity. Think wonderful things that are in this country.
Yeah.
And I haven't spoken about the Julius Nyerere hydroelectric. Nope. That one I've not even spoken of.
Yeah.
It's going to be biggest.
It is. So this
There's a Renaissance one in Ethiopia. This one, biggest. Look at my hands.
If your hands are things to go by.
Yes.
Did you tell them they have electric SGR?
My friend, what this one was supposed to be.
And yes, and distance that it covers.
Yes.
Profound. Cost that it costs.
Profound.
Not profound.
You know, my friends insist that we go on a weekend trip on the SGR. Anytime, at the drop of a hat. No budget, no nothing. The same expense you'd use on a Friday night, you'll only probably lose one of your drinks on that ticket. That's the price.
Okay.
Proverb.
Here we go.
Okay? Is it okay now if I say the proverb?
It is very okay.
Right. A fruit tree that grows in a dung heap will certainly blossom. I thought this one was particularly nice.
Isn't it, though?
Fruit tree that grows up
in a dung
heap.
So the science of it tells you that obviously you know that waste matter will contribute significantly. So then maybe in what you see could be a waste, there is still life.
If you only look at the maggots that live there.
Okay, let's not talk about maggots. You know I get squirrely about such things.
Sorry. Yes, please.
Okay.
Weirdly, I have a story.
Oh no, please don't let it be gross.
It's very short. It's very short.
But is it gross?
No. It's still, the only gross thing is still the same manure. There was a bird that was flying out south for winter.
South.
And it was late. Yes, you know they leave America and then they come down to South America, Europe for Africa, right?
I've been told such things, yes.
Yes. So when that bird was flying, it was late.
Even the monarch butterfly, I'm told, does such things. But anyway, carry on.
So it was late. So the cold got to it and it couldn't fly anymore. So it falls on a farm. When it's on the farm,
I've heard this story.
Yeah, it so happens that a cow decides to drop fresh manure on it. And the bird at first is disgusted. It smells. Then it realizes that this is warm. So as it warms up, it starts to sing. And as it sings, a cat hears. And as fate would have it, the cat digs it out and eats it. Moral of the story is not everyone who dumps manure on you is your enemy. And not everyone who digs you out of manure is your friend.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's the problem for today. And Mark, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
I left my phone. Forgot I don't have an access card. Then I've been hanging around here for a bit.
Oh, really?
Yes.
So you left your phone intentionally?
No.
I wish.
Okay.
It's called forgot his phone.
Okay, he said left.
That phone is his office.
Yeah.
You know when that's where I take notes. So now I have to rely on total memory.
Okay.
Good for you.
Well done. Don't worry. Everything is going to be all right.
Let us pray. Please pray for Mark to get an access card.
Lydia, Mark is talking to you through the corner. Instead of
I
him
talk to you directly.
Just speak directly. Eh?
Because I could call her.
Oh, yeah. So sorry. Don't worry. That one will be fixed. Where is Avin? Avin, see if he can bring us newspapers. But in the meantime, how about we greet people who are online today? Let's just say hello to you because we recognize you. We don't take it for granted. And I keep saying it, and you guys think I don't take it for granted at all that you guys join us every morning. Don Sabwa says, CT, you specifically, do you know my friend in Malawi? We say Achimwene. Did you know that?
Let me answer this question more directly. Don, first of all, good morning and how are you? In this country, how are you is one word.
Yes, it is. How are you?
The R is silent.
Yes,
and the O becomes an A.
Yes. The answer to the question that he has asked is no, I do not know.
Okay, well, now you know.
Yes.
Now you know.
Now I do.
Robert Mbogo says, good morning from Mombasa. Good morning to you too, Bernard Olo. Listening from Uhanya Beach. Thank you. I thought I would be the first to comment today. Paul Nje here. You know what you need to do? You need to wake up you need to wake up early and then at 6 on the DOT, send that message. Let's see if you can do for tomorrow, right? Brian says, good morning. Today is a fresh start indeed, a new opportunity to move closer into your goals. Whatever challenges come your way, remember that you are capable, strong, and ready to take them on. I like that. Thank you for that, Brian. Agola says, hello, Team Spice. Mukopoa tukopoa. Linus Gitonga says, good morning, Spice FM. Rose Grace is tuned in this morning from Tamu. Good morning, Spice FM, listening from Rongo. Benedicto's greeting from Doha. Happy to be here in the greatest show in the world, Asante Sana. February, is that you? We see you, February. Whatever is happening in Eastern DRC should concern every African. We have failed that country. That's part of the conversation that we will actually be having at 9 o'clock. We saw what is being called the fall of Goma to M23 rebels yesterday. We saw that there was probably much more significant destruction in a day in Eastern DR Congo that has taken place over time. So that was quite something to see, that the carnage and the loss of life, and unfortunately some of the unfortunate activities of conflict took place yesterday, and the situation is volatile and it doesn't seem to be getting any lighter.
Did you see the video of the the army man, who said that his pension and his salary should go to his
family? Yeah.
And he sadly perished
a few minutes after
giving that video. So it's real.
It's real.
Yeah.
It is. It's real. So that forms part of the conversation that we will be having at 9 o'clock, because I mean, it is not a today conflict. It's for some time. All right. Dr. Venvik says, good morning. Good morning, Siasa Zimeanza. Please, February fika haraka tujue msimamo yetu, either baba ako ndani ama. Okay, sawa. Juma says, good morning. We need each other all the time. This is very true. We do. Tibbs Muga says, good morning. Is it true that Kenyan embassy got burnt in DRC? Well, it was affected. We're not sure of the details. There was some fire. We're actually yet to get some kind of official statement in terms of what happened there. But, you know, quite a number. I mean, there was a French embassy. There was the American embassy. Quite a lot. Ndu, another question for CT. Are you aware in Tanzania, Timothy Apio, 1964 Masters, University of West Virginia, was longest serving chief secretary under Julius Nyerere and Hassan Mwinyi, shaping Tanzania's governance? Did you know?
Honestly, I have no clue who that person actually is.
Okay.
But this is really good information.
Cindio?
Yes.
Thanks. Sandra Sharia says, good morning, guys. Good morning to you. Kav says, good morning, Spice family. Good morning. Better late than never indeed, Sir George Gashoiri. How is Manchester? Chris Mora says, good morning. Tuned in from Ice City Harbin. Let me ask you, how cold is it in Ice City? Please tell us. Or is it just a name? Wishing you a great day from Taveta, says Asava. Matthew Liala says he's tuned in and says, I miss the phrase tukutana kwa debe. It's about to start being said, my friend. Don't miss it too much because it's a coming. Ian Hisa says, good morning to everybody. Someone tells... hey, CT, you see that little moment we had when you were talking about preparing? Somebody said I should tell you, you're going nowhere. We have wisdom to reverse age. So you're going nowhere. Did you hear?
I have heard. They're referring to me, aren't they?
Yes.
Okay. It isn't morbidity. Mark, I was merely mentioning in the first bit of when we began this that I lost a friend of mine, a classmate of mine, called Kanja Waruru. And I was saying that when you lose an age mate, an ear mate, mortality is brought closer. Yes. You realize, oh, okay, it's our turn, is it?
Yeah. True.
Yes, so it isn't morbid. It's just a simple reality.
Yes. And it's quite important because of our fear of facing our own mortality. It's part of the reason Africa has among the lowest life insurance policies, most contradictions and fights during wills. Yeah, it's actually good to consider.
It's always good to actually plan, understanding that it will come.
Yes.
Indeed.
It's not tomorrow. Yeah. It's not the day after tomorrow, but it will eventually come.
But even to quote the Bible, the psalmist says that teach us to count
number
our days correctly,
so
that we begin a heart of wisdom.
Okay, Pastor Tumeskia.
Thank you, sir. Askof. Okay.
Reverend.
I need everything.
Daniel Maina says, good morning. Donald Omonga is greeting us. Dedan Mwangi is also here. Kevin Shivo. I want to make sure that I say hello to everybody who's here. My take, we see, kwani bado kuna watu wana doubt. Doubt what? Hiyo maneno tulimaliza na hata kitenge tumeshashona. Ya nini? Tell us, what are you talking about, my take? Are we going somewhere? Is there a party that nobody told me about? Because I'm about to roll it out proper. Nahashon says, good morning. Keep it up. Government failure is dangerous. Indeed it is. Good morning, beautiful. Beautiful who? Let me just take that one. Because I don't know that if I call any of these two gentlemen beautiful, that I will still be here. Sandra Sharia, I don't know what you mean, but we see you anyway. Guys, always good to have you in the room this morning, as always. So, as we just said, hello to you. What we're going to do right now, take a quick look at weather, traffic very quickly, and then come back and look at the headlines and the stories that are making the news today. So don't go away. We'll be back. It is now 29 minutes to 7.
This is the Situation Room. The only way to start your day. The weather with SpiceFM.
We're looking at cloudy conditions and a chance of rain in Nairobi this morning. Highs of 23 and lows of 15. Cloudy at 15 in Nakuru and cloudy at 15 in Nyeri. It's cloudy at 13 in Eldoret, going to highs of 21, and we're looking into a cloudy, rather sunny Mombasa at 24 with highs of 33. Malindi going to highs of 31. It's currently cloudy at 26. It's cloudy at 20 in Kisumu with highs of 27, while Kakamega at 17 is cloudy with highs of 27. Mostly clear in Kampala at 19 with highs of 28, and we're looking into a cloudy Dar es Salaam at 27 with highs of 33. Johannesburg is clear at 14 with highs of 29, while Mogadishu at 24 is mostly cloudy with highs of 31. It's clear at 11 in Addis Ababa with highs of 23, while Lagos is cloudy at 27. We'll see highs of 33. Kinshasa at 23 is clear, going to highs of 34 through Wednesday. -1 and sunny Wednesday afternoon in Beijing with highs of 2 and lows of -8. It's 8 degrees and cloudy in Paris with highs of just that and lows of 5, while London at 6 is cloudy. We'll see highs of 8. New York Tuesday night is cloudy at 1 degree coming into Wednesday, highs of 4 and lows of -1.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4.
Okay. So let's look into some of these headlines. On the front page of the Standard today, grand cover-up. My goodness, this is bold. A Nakuru fisherman went to fend for his family, but 10 days later, Kenya Wildlife Service officers who arrested him now claim he escaped. Okay, follow me. They arrested him, but now he has escaped. They claim police have no idea where he is, and the courts, his mother and wife, are also clueless. Clueless as far they don't know. In these times of forced disappearances, questions linger on what actually happened to Brian Odhiambo. Let's look at a quick timeline. January 18th, Brian Odhiambo goes missing. Locals claim he was arrested by KWS officers. January 19th, his wife and mother report the case to police. January 24th, court issues orders to have Odhiambo produced and summons the DCI and KWS. January 28th, the matter is mentioned before court. KWS and DCI file responses. January 30th, which is tomorrow, court is expected to give further directions in the case. The question is, where is Brian Odhiambo? Other headlines. Death of opposition, a boon for Ruto. Since Raila Odinga was co-opted into government, the Azimio coalition has faltered and stuttered. What was meant to be a strong unit to check government excesses has been reduced to a shell, issuing sporadic statements intended to pressure the executive, which are sometimes contradictory. Tensions rise in DRC as protesters attack embassies, and this happened in Goma yesterday. There is alarm as 100 women have been killed in 6 months, and this is still around the issue of femicide. Remember what we said, femicide, when after the case you're able to show that there has been some gender-related abuse.
Yes.
That is when we call it femicide. Job scare as Saudi Arabia deaths double. Yeah? Yeah. They double. What the other woman told the Wanjiru inquest, remember that athlete Wanjiru's
marathoner, to be precise.
Yeah, marathoner, is the inquest into his death is taking place currently. And what happens with an inquest is when you find out all the details, you then find out if somebody has a case to answer, and that is when that particular individual or individuals would then be asked to, or charged rather, to court. So those are some of the headlines that we're looking at. Do we have some of the others, CT?
Yes. Business Daily. Now, let me start with the Nation. DRC erupts. My friend, today the papers are big on headlines. DRC erupts. Okay? Then there are other stories that will follow. Goodness gracious me. Let me move ahead.
By the speaking of DRC, as City finds that, is it true that the M23 leader was in Kenya at some point?
Well, yeah. Look, there's a lot of
Who is the leader?
Okay, yeah, exactly.
Now, who is the M23 leader?
Who's the leader?
I think he's called PK.
Okay.
You know PK?
Let me ask the question. Who do you know of on this continent who has not been to Nairobi at some point?
Well, we know the Hamed T was here. We also know
M16 was in Nairobi. So I mean,
did they come with M15?
I wonder.
you got to say these things in code. You say PK.
Oh, sorry.
You say PK.
Look. Are we not looking at a situation also where Paul Kagame and Kigali as an administration are also being accused or at some point of supporting M23?
I don't think it's an accusation anymore.
No, people have
basically it's been established as fact that PK,
Kigali is that Kigali is supporting M23. Yes. This why I insist on the word accused is because there has been deniability over and over and over again from Kigali.
Do you remember when the new president?
It's called diplomacy.
Of course, it's. Yeah. I mean, this.
But remember when the president got his second term, who did he state as the biggest enemy of towards peace? He mentioned Kagame. So, and this is the thing about African conflicts, that we really don't want to put the buck where it actually stops. And I think it's time for the people of the Congo, for them to actually realize that this is across. In fact, what was I watching? I think it was Al Jazeera or something that was saying this is a conflict between Congo and Kigali.
And why is it a conflict?
Well, I hear that if you go Goma and its environs, you dig 1 inch, you find cobalt. The next inch, you find gold.
You guys, I think this is one thing that goes unstated. That the amount and quality of natural resources,
including forests,
that are in DR Congo is incredible. And this is after years and years and years of extraction. And that is why there are still people there. That essentially, yes, you can walk and dig a foot, and find cobalt. The endowment of natural resources in DR Congo is actually phenomenal.
So essentially we're saying
that
is the curse.
It is. But this is the conversation that we're having at 9 o'clock. So I don't even want to get into it proper now. Let's get into it at 9 because it's monumental. M23 is already saying, look, we don't want foreign interference. There's a meeting in Nairobi that's supposed to be taking place. Excuse me, why are you guys being involved in our issues? And so they said, you know what, fine, and that is what essentially sent the warning bells yesterday.
Okay, fine. Let's look at headlines.
Let's do that.
Then we'll get back. This story we will look at, okay?
Yes.
Dangote gets a piece of Kenya market with Java House deal.
That's who's buying it.
Oh, wow.
That is business. She is coming here daily. Okay? Yes. The East African, Uganda to take Burundi bases, Somalia. That is in Somalia. Okay? They're peacekeeping forces in Somalia. Sindio? Burundi had sent. Now, Uganda to take Burundi bases, okay, in Somalia. Does that make sense?
Yes.
It doesn't make sense.
Oh, okay, it can make sense, no problem.
Okay. In Taifa Leo headline, Magavana 11 wamulikwa, meaning spotlight on them. Hey, there are many. Let me spare them the blushes. I'm not going to mention the names. No, seriously, I'm not mentioning the names. I'm letting it go. The Business Daily, Rigi G allies face axe. Axe as in A-X-E, not as in A-S-K. Okay? It's not me trying to say ask and I end up by saying axe. Yes, I'm not axing this. It's axe, okay?
Rapper's axe.
Yes, rappers. Then there's a picture. This one I'll mention a picture of all manner of people who are supposed to be the allies of who? Of Rigi G. Yes, this is Kenya. Not just unfolding, unloading. All right? Yes. See, I've mentioned
finished. Okay. What else do I want?
But they, when you say axe, what do they mean? Because it says rebel MPs face the axe in house teams. So basically, they're being kicked out of committees or out of parliament.
Well, essentially, I think that's where they start. They start getting kicked out of committees, which we've seen before. This has happened. I mean, one of the big examples we have is during Uhuru Kenyatta's administration, and you had the likes of Murkomen and Kihika and Kimani Ichung'wah being kicked out as a majority in the Senate and in the National Assembly. That happened, and it was clear. And Duale and Aiden Duale.
And how did that turn out?
Of course, it didn't turn out well. They became, friends of the opposition, and those are the people essentially who are leading governments today.
Yeah, and that's
so if you're saying if trends follow trends,
yes,
if trends follow trends, this is what is on the wall. Okay. Okay, so let's look into this story, shall we, of this gentleman who seems to be missing in the forest. Mystery deepens as DCI KWS failed to present a man abducted in park. The question is, are they the ones who took him? Were they present at the time? And who is he that they should take him in the first place? The mystery surrounding the abduction of a 31-year-old Nakuru man continues to deepen, with authorities now claiming they don't know his whereabouts. This unfolds at a time when the country is grappling with the disturbing issue of forced disappearances and abductions, while the state gives a lackluster response to calls for action. Residents of Lakeview and Kivumbini, along with lawyers and human rights activists, flocked to the Nakuru High Court yesterday, hoping for an answer and a glimpse of Brian Odhiambo. They had expected that should they go to court, they would find him there. Shock horror. The court had ordered that Odhiambo be produced by security agencies in Nakuru. However, they were forced to leave the courtroom heartbroken with more questions than answers. Also present were Odhiambo's wife, Avin, Okoh, and his mother, Elizabeth Auma, who closely followed the proceedings, hoping to finally see their loved one. Justice Julius Nangea last week ordered Kenya Wildlife Services and the Directorate of Criminal Investigations to produce Odhiambo in court, dead or alive. Further, the DCI and the in-charge Lake Nakuru National Park were to appear in court in person to explain the reasons for Odhiambo's arrest. So it would appear as though, yes, he was arrested, but now they're saying that they don't know where he is. Is it possible that you can arrest somebody and then you don't know where they went?
The arrest isn't really the issue here. It's how it is. We have come to understand is the operating procedure of our security forces when asked to reveal where the whereabouts of people they have arrested. Then you start being given the runaround.
And CT, one of the things that we easily forget as we deal with abductions, there is a law that states that once you're arrested, you're supposed to be arraigned in court within 24 hours.
Yes.
Now, we know very many people who have not been taken to court within 24 hours. Yet, there's not a single policeman who's paying the price for actually doing the criminal activity, for detaining you beyond the legal time. And that, my friends, is a sign of pending lawlessness.
Actually, it isn't pending, it's unfolding, because the people who are at the heart of ensuring law, order, security are enforced are the people who seem to be at the forefront of actually breaking it.
Yes.
Yes. So now that, unfortunately, is the sort of example you don't need.
Yep. And then on the other hand, there is the commensurate amount of force you're supposed to use depending on the severity of the situation.
Yes.
And when you see 60, was it, or is 20 police officers who arrested a 61-year-old lady, that in itself, in a court of law, is a use of excessive force.
Is it possible? My question has always been, when we hear public position by security forces, agencies, but whether it be the police, DCI, whatever, when they tell you that we don't know, for me, that's fine. But the underlying current here is that it is not possible that about a security issue, the agency that is tasked with upholding that security is now telling you that they don't know. So how are you then able to vest your security in such? That's my question.
But now,
the thing that you are supposed to be doing, you're saying you cannot do.
To extend your question to its logical conclusion, if the forces that are supposed to keep us safe, it's a police service, are supposed to keep us safe, do not know when criminal activity is happening, then we must question ourselves, how unsafe are we?
That's what I'm saying.
And there's the matter of things we really sweep under the rug. I've been thinking about those bodies that were found in Aquare and how the story unfolded. Because for me, communication is something that sticks in my head. So CT goes to Aquare and he finds, 16, 17 bodies, right? Then a poor, hapless lawyer is arrested for this so-called killings. He is soon absolved of all wrongdoing, and there's no update on the investigations, no update on the victims, and we only add more people into the mystery of disappearance.
This guy, did he just go fishing?
Well,
you have to ask.
The problem is, once you establish a pattern, that pattern now becomes the norm. And if the norm is as negative as this one, then what you've done, you've actually entrenched impunity, and you are beginning to entrench lawlessness. And the worst thing is that the very people who are supposed to uphold it are the ones who are representing us in this particular manner. This is the unfortunate thing.
And we forget also that as much as you do it, which is your worst, the people looking at it become fearless.
Yep,
they do.
Yep.
They do. With every passing day, that is what happens.
Now, let me tell you another story. Can I?
Tell us.
Please go ahead.
Standard. Apparently, we're being told that the death of the opposition is a boon for Ruto. Why? Since Raila Odinga was co-opted into government, the Azimio coalition has faltered and stuttered. What was meant to be a strong unit to check government excesses has been reduced to a shell, now the opposition, issuing sporadic statements intended to pressure the executive, which are sometimes contradictory. So it's like you're basically saying they don't know what they're doing. They're just, stuttering to try to retain some kind of relevance, but, that ain't working because it just looks pretty ugly. So essentially they're saying that the opposition has just become a shell, or Azimio has just become a shell of what it used to be. I don't even know if Azimio still exists. But anyway, so they go on to say in this story that, what it has done is that it has given President Ruto a leg up in all of this.
Has it?
Does the country have a functioning opposition?
Yes.
That is the question.
Yes, it does.
What comprises the opposition? And is it provided for in law? These are some of the questions the majority of Kenyans have been raising, arguing that opposition parties should be more robust in overseeing the government. Given that they are also entitled to funding. Amid heightened political tensions in the country, coupled with ongoing efforts by politicians to align themselves for the 2027 general election, the role of the opposition has come under scrutiny. Political leaders have been keen to emphasize the critical role of the opposition plays in the country, in addition to now declaring that they are building a broad-based opposition.
So, if you would allow me, there are two things that are possible. When you eat a lot of food, you either end up throwing it up or you get serious constipation.
A lot of food?
When you eat a lot of food.
When you gorge yourself with food.
With food.
Yeah.
So one of the things that has happened is President William Ruto has built, by view, the biggest coalition by politicians in many, many years. Okay? If you look at Kalonzo Musyoka and the rest, the only thing you can speak of in terms of them succeeding in doing anything is getting the mouth and person of Rigiji on their side. But I dare say, and I asked Wamalwa this question yesterday, do you have all it takes to run? Then we asked them the question, where are Gen Z? So opposition in this country, if it was to be called a party, it's called Gen Z. Lastly,
yes,
the politicians are playing checkers while the Gen Z are playing chess.
Similar looking board, different game.
Yes. Because the game has shifted.
Because here we are, we know we're playing netball, and these guys are kicking the ball.
Yes. That's exactly the point.
This coupled with the statements that we saw Rigathi Gachagua make over the last couple of days, the man is brazen in his
scathing remarks.
I mean, his remarks. It's like somebody told him, Oga, see, anything that is in your mind, say it. Because now he's giving you an insider view into essentially conversations that they used to have, engagements that they used to activate. Whatever they discussed in the bedroom essentially is coming out into the public now. And he's basically telling you, this is the kind of man that you have for president. And he's not being shy in his approach at all. He's basically telling you, this is what I think, this is what I saw, this is how it has operated, and my friend, this is what is coming if you don't know.
And does he know what that does? It also tells us, this is the sort of person we had as a deputy president.
Yes.
But he's trying to sanitize himself also by saying, at the time, I just thought things would get better.
There's a saying, and this is why Rigathi Gachagua is surviving this. The enemy of my enemy is my friend.
Yes, now.
And I think right now the advantage of what gets to happen and what this country has to deal with is, if you look at opposition today, and remember Eugene was here, former CS, saying they've gone to court, they've paid bail. The person who has basically given them a bit of a shot in the arm is Rigathi Gachagua. Because if you watch news, how many times does Kalonzo have quotable quotes? How many times does Eugene trend? But Rigathi Gachagua, my friend.
What are you saying?
What I'm simply saying.
Just say what you're saying.
I'm saying this.
Right now, he's a rock star.
So they have a rock star, but they're still on the checkers board. None of them has taken the concentration of the anger, the whatever of the Gen Z on the political field. Even the broad-based government has not been able to do that. And for me, this is my prediction. Broad-based equals constipation. very soon.
You're eating too much.
Eating too much. And I don't mean eating money.
I get it.
I mean eating politicians.
Yeah. You're bringing more and more.
Yeah, the story you're telling us points to how it is we consume and how we understand our politics. Because the opposition in our minds has to be a political party or renowned politicians.
Yes.
That's what the opposition. Our constitution, actually, the truth is, and Peter Kaluma mentioned it here, what we have is a majority and a minority.
Yes.
The opposition, as we know it, or in terms of the function, is parliament.
Yes.
Parliament.
Parliament should be opposition.
They and its entirety. They're supposed to check who? The executive. Okay? Now, when you have 70% of the population, in the conversation we had yesterday, and you talk about talking to all these older people, and they're all older, okay? Really long in the tooth. The constituency that actually is the most important, you say, we'll talk to them later.
Yeah.
Man, let me ask a question. Are you really serious?
Yes.
These are people who should have been front and center of your entire discussion.
Yes.
Not, we will talk to them later. So essentially, you've told us, you and your grouping of elders are the most important ones. Other people can come in later.
Do you know, this political class is living in amnesia. There was the Gen Z of 2017.
Yes.
And I remember I went through certain campuses holding debates with campus kids that's around 2018-19.
Yeah.
They had no clue what government and its structure means. But there was a pivotal moment, City, called 2020. When young people finally realized this thing called government can stop me from going to school, can stop me from clubbing, can stop me from sitting in the house with 10 of my friends to have a house
walking
party.
in the streets.
Yes. So they woke up to the power of government. Then in the last 2 years, if you study the steep climb in their education matters civil rights, you listen to them, it's like all of them went to government school in the last 4 years. And therefore, they cannot be a people that are ignored anymore. And if you ignore them,
to your detriment.
They're playing chess.
Absolutely.
They're
You
playing
ignore them
chess.
to your detriment.
Soon you shall hear checkmate.
And the black queen, the strongest on the floor, will actually have done something.
Yes.
Shall we then look really quickly at this alarm that is continuing to be raised on the femicide issue? Alarm as 100 women killed in 6 months. That's on the Nationals on page 5 of the Standard today. 6 months, 100 women dead. And the question is, are all of them femicide? But let's see. Sorry, I can't seem to count this morning, but we'll figure that out. GBV, 100 women and girls killed in the last 6 months. More than 100 women and girls have been killed as Kenya grapples with gender-based violence threatening the fabric of society. Ministry of Interior released the latest figures yesterday as members of Technical Working Group on Gender Violence, were sworn into office. They were sworn in to identify trends, hotspots and causes contributing to GBV and femicides. They were sworn in. My goodness. Okay. The Nancy Baraza-led task force will further analyze adequacy of current legal and policy frameworks and make proposals and amendments to laws to tame violence against women. According to stats, 15 women and girls died this month alone in gender-based violence and femicide-related attacks, which Internal Security Principal Secretary Raymond Omolo described as alarming. For me, it's alarming when one dies, but okay. So this task force was sworn in. They're going to earn a salary and all of this kind of thing to find out, the reasons as to why this happens. Yeah?
When, ironically, we had the director of criminal research seated
the head of the crime unit,
seated right to my right, and his data of 5 men, 2 women per month is not congruent with this report.
No, you guys, this is my problem with duplicitous engagements. We already have the information. You have an entire crime unit who has information sitting there gathering dust. They have it. They're sitting
We
here.
have NGOs who do nothing else
Jamini.
but look at the information and the data from the police sources and they collate them.
Yes.
And even speak to the communities.
Yes, they do.
Yeah.
Yes, they do. We have data. So are you augmenting this data? Are you doing what exactly?
Why wouldn't you have the director of the crime unit, for example, on this supposed task force? Why wouldn't you?
And you know, it's so interesting that you're creating a task force for basically, according to our conversation yesterday, factors that are already known.
You know,
they're already known.
This is giving these committees a bad name.
Yes.
Because the last time we had one was a working party committee thingamajig, which was supposed to streamline and tell us how higher learning and all these things are going to work. And where are we with it?
Bunk.
We are in a complete and undiluted mess.
Do you know, and I dare say this, and let me speak of civil servants.
In 10 seconds.
10 seconds. I was once hired to sit on a board. And when I met the managers, they all had PhDs. They knew exactly what they were doing. The problem was the decision makers were not as clever.
Boy, we have problems, Jamin. We have problems. Hey, but it's 7 o'clock.
Spice up your life.
Good morning, this is the News Wire. I'm La Ubaga. Education stakeholders have faulted the government for the delayed release of capitation owed to schools, citing frustration among school heads. This comes as the Ministry of Education reported that the government has released 119 billion for capitation, with secondary schools yet to receive their share of the funds. Kisumu County Secretary of NAD, David Obon, says suppliers of various goods and services to schools have been pressing for their debts to be paid, a situation that puts them in the balance of whether to pay debts or continue services in schools.
The suppliers who are helping them put up infrastructures do not have their money captured in the disbursement. So what else happens? It is therefore they're being forced. If the suppliers insist, they need to mean that our heads and board of management will be forced to go for environment. And if they go for environment from one voted to the other, it will cause the whole confusion and mix-up.
Education Cabinet Secretary Julius Migos has also assured stakeholders that the government will distribute 14 billion shillings by the end of this week. However, Cashier National Chairperson Willie Kuria said if the funds are not disbursed, then educational activities may continue to be affected.
The disbursement is ongoing under installments because of the financial challenges that the government is facing, but we are ensuring that we are releasing funds to the schools to ensure that they are able to continue. So this week, as we speak, 14 billion is being processed.
We are really hopeful that this will happen because you take into account that last year there was a deficit of 7,000. So they are existing debts. So what we are waiting for, we are actually waiting to pay debts so that we can get more debts.
The Trump administration in the US on Tuesday moved to halt the supply of life-saving drugs for HIV, malaria and TB in countries supported by USAID. A memo sent to contractors and partners working with USAID instructed them to stop work immediately as part of a broader freeze on USAID and funding that began after Trump's inauguration last week. This signals the end of the life-saving PEPFAR program, a casualty of the new order from Washington. PEPFAR has been crucial in saving lives and preventing millions of HIV infections. Health Cabinet Secretary Deborah Barraza, however, says the government is exploring alternative funding after the US withdrew from the World Health Organization and stopped HIV-related aid.
I have tasked the various state departments, the various programs and directors that have been involved or that will be affected by this, so that we can be able to map out and look at the impact in matters finances, in matters human resource, etc. And with this, we'll come up with a concrete way forward in terms of interventions, of which we'll be able to share with the Cabinet, His Excellency the President of the Republic of Kenya, and see how we can move forward forward in matters intervention.
WHO representative in Kenya, Dr. Abdurrahman Dale, on his part has expressed the need for continued cooperation among East African member states in order to address the challenges of improving health services.
Now it's time for us to come together, strengthen our partnership, strengthen our ways of working together, and recognize that no country can do this in isolation. And furthermore, you mentioned resource mobilization. We all know the environment we are in, the context we are in, so it's critical to strategically think about ways of mobilizing resources, securing resources, to make sure that our health challenges are addressed.
USAID and Kenya have worked together since 2003 under the PEPFAR program, providing HIV testing kits, medicines and medical supplies. This partnership has helped prevent approximately 270,000 HIV-related deaths and 26 million others globally. And finally, Tourism Cabinet Secretary Rebecca Miano says that the government has allocated funds in the budget and improved systems to ensure that victims of human-wildlife conflicts get a timely compensation. In the past 2 financial years, the Ministry of Tourism has paid out a total of 1.8 billion shillings, with the ministry last week disbursing 344 million shillings that benefited over 1,000 people affected by the conflicts, 61 of whom were from Nyeri County. Speaking in Nyeri during the launch of a 61-kilometer electric fence construction project funded by Rhino Ak, Miano also said that the compensation period had been reduced to less than 3 months after a wildlife encroachment incident was reported. That's the News Wire. I'm Leah Ubaga.
SpiceFM, Nakuru.
All right, good morning, and let's take a quick look at what's happening on the roads today. A bit of a drizzle here and there. I don't think it's slowing things anything down considerably. A little bit of traffic on the Thika Superhighway, actually quite a lot of that, and it's coming in all the way from Githurai. It slows down a tad as you get towards the Allsops Junction, and then out towards Survey, it is bumper to bumper. On Kiambu Road, in and outbound traffic is doing the thing. It's usually all in because we've got a couple of lanes that folks have created. But okay, trying to find its way towards Muthaiga Square. There's also traffic coming in through to Limuru Road via Muthaiga. Coming in from United Nations Avenue. Spring Valley through towards Lower Kabete is also very busy. Waiakiwe has some traffic, and as you try to get towards the CBT, it's going to slow down a tad. And also, as you're coming off Langata Road, traffic is starting to build up. Some of that will go towards Rilo Dingo. The rest of it will go towards Aerodrome Road and then on to Huru Highway. The Eastern Bypass then finding its way towards North Airport Road, the whole Cabanas interchange. That's doing its thing, as well as on Outer Ring this morning. Okay, it looks like it's going to be a busy Wednesday. Hump Day, getting into the end of the week. Let's see what happens through it. Talk to us on SpiceFM KE on X, hashtag The Situation Room.
Are you ready to become Kenya's next biggest music star? Do you have what it takes to compete with the best and walk away with over 1 million Kenyan shillings in grand prizes? Auditions are open for Kenya Star Search on Saturday 1st of February and Sunday 2nd February at the Nairobi City Charter Hall from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Come through and show us what you're made of. Proudly sponsored by Skiza, Techno Kenya, Sunlink, Wairimu Kenya and Boomplay.
Are you a young person looking to unlock your potential? Are you ready to take the future in your hands? If so, then listen up. KCB to Jejiri is the plan. It's designed to empower young people like you, develop skills and knowledge you need to succeed in life. KCB to Jejiri combines vocational skills training, business development training, access to finance and business mentorship, preparing youth for jobs, entrepreneurship and wealth creation. Don't be left out. Visit kcbgroup.com/foundation to learn more.
Are you ready to unleash your creativity and dive into the dynamic world of media? Then listen up. At Standard Talanta Academy, a collaboration between Talanta Institute and Standard Group, we are redefining the rules of the game. With our Media Mastery course, you'll embark on a journey that goes beyond the ordinary. From TV and film production, photography to digital journalism, our curriculum is designed to equip you with the skills needed to thrive in today's media landscape. But we are not just about theory, we are about action. Our hands-on approach means you will be creating, producing, and innovating from day one. And with Standard Group, home to KTN, Radio Maisha, SpiceFM, and the Standard newspaper, you'll have unparalleled access to industry expertise and real-world opportunities. So, if you're ready to turn your passion into profit, join us at Standard Talanta Academy and unlock your full potential. Visit www.talanta.ac.ke or call 0724 468 468 for more information. Standard Talanta Academy. Unleash creativity.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
It's 9 after 7 o'clock, and here we are into the second hour of Kenya's biggest conversation this Wednesday. I know it's a little bit gloomy outside. It might rain, but hey, with the rain comes something, isn't it? As we say, you can figure out what that something is. We're getting into it this morning. Do CT and Mark Bichachi with you this morning, and as we get into this conversation this hour, we will be talking about connections with other nations and what Kenya is doing to ensure that the economic situation improves, gets better, is on top of all of that. And in order to have that conversation today, we are joined by, or rather, the Principal Secretary in the Department of Trade in the Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment. Alfred Ombudo. Ombudo is here with us this morning. Good morning.
Good morning, and how are you today?
Very well, thank you.
Yes, it's a pleasure being back here. Yes. I think I was there about a year ago.
Yes, you were.
Yes.
And things have happened since then. And some of those things we'll be discussing today.
Yes.
But it's good to have you here all the same.
Thank you.
Big ticket department that you're in, and stuff that is necessary for Kenya to be able to get it up a rung or two. So those are some of the conversations that we'll be having.
Yeah.
But CT wants to welcome you with today's proverb.
Yes.
And so we're going to get you to work as though you don't already have enough. And you can tell us what that proverb means to you and how you would interpret it. Fair enough?
I'll try my best.
That's all we can ask.
Yeah.
Okay.
Our proverbs for the whole of this week come from the United Republic of Tanzania. A fruit tree that grows in a dung heap will certainly blossom.
A fruit tree that grows in a dung heap will certainly blossom. Well, my interpretation of that is that from not so glorious or from difficult circumstances, that is what creates the conditions for things to grow and become better. And from the most unlikely of things, excellence, beauty, and nourishment does arise. So we should always have an open mind and always do the hard work and the inglorious part of work that brings glory to the end.
No, we are going to actually ask you to be a consultant when it comes to interpreting proverbs.
Maybe that's a retirement plan.
So, you don't have to think about what you'll do later. It's already sorted.
But I need to get my first contract from him.
You need to
as a proof of concept.
Right. Are you alluding to a certain list that was unleashed by the Public Service Commission?
No, I'm not alluding.
By any chance?
Well, something needs to be signed.
Yes.
But stuff has already been signed, from what we understand. And we're looking at a strategic agreement that has been made between Kenya and the United Arab Emirates. And what then that portends for the country. We know, just taking off the conversation that we had with you a year ago, is that there were certain plans that were already in place and that there were, the wheels had started turning in terms of what could be done to ensure that Kenya and its trade partners around the world take things a notch higher, whereby you're able to ensure that there's a free flow of, number one, information, communication, and then also this trade that we're talking about. But here we are then with the UAE Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement. Can we start really from the beginning and say, very simply, what is that?
Thanks for that. The Kenya United Arab Emirates Economic Partnership Agreement is a comprehensive agreement between the two countries that is expected to increase trade, make it easier for us to trade goods, increase the level of trade in services as well between the two countries, enhance our ability to cooperate on various economic sectors. But most importantly, it is a signal to the world that these are two countries that have come of age and that are both the gateway into their respective continents, and that we see lots of opportunities for that agreement to bring more trade, more investment. At the core of it is that we now have a common understanding on trade procedures, on how to trade livestock, animals, plants, vegetables. We have a common understanding on issues that are extremely important for investment, such as intellectual property and all of those other areas. So that is what the agreement is all about. We are going to take it to Parliament for ratification, just like they will, and then we do hope that trade will increase.
Okay. There's a phrase that you've used there, it's a common understanding. So essentially, so Kenya understands that this can happen. The UAE understands that this can happen. And that is, so everybody knows that, okay, we can actually do this. There can be free flow of information and communication. You can actually improve and increase trade. You know, we see Kenya and the UAE see each other, essentially. But what is the trigger? What turns the key that these things actually happen? We can have a common understanding, but it just sits there as an understanding.
Exactly. So I maybe let me start off from here. The UAE is Kenya's sixth largest export destination. We send a lot of our tea there. We send a lot of fruits, vegetables, and flowers there. And it's one of the largest sources of our meat exports. Actually, if I just zero in on that, we're exporting about $74 million worth of meat there. And this has increased tenfold over the last 10 years. We are exporting flowers there, about $30 million worth of flowers, about $10 million worth of vegetables, and so on and so forth. The UAE is also a big source of our imports. We are basically getting close to about $2 billion worth of oil products and a lot of hydrocarbon derivatives from that, and of course a few manufactured goods and so on and so forth. So it is an extremely important player for our export performance. And therefore, why do we need an agreement if then the figures are already showing that it's an important country already? We want to triple our meat exports into the UAE. We want to triple our horticulture exports. We want to have more of our professionals get work opportunities and get subcontracting opportunities in the Middle East, which is a very strong area that's growing in certain sectors such as artificial intelligence, ICT, building and construction, and several professional services. This agreement lays down a framework that creates access to Kenyan professionals in agreed areas into those sectors, so that then they'll be able to have so-called national treatment and ease of entry when it comes to exercising opportunities in that market. When it comes to things like the meat sector, we have now agreed that what are the rules in as far as animal health is concerned? How do we deal with issues whereby disease outbreaks occur, where previously you could have a total ban on exports to certain countries? And we have agreed on how other goods and commodities will be treated when it comes to customs, when it comes to trade measures, and so on and so forth. So this agreement creates predictability, but it also creates a dispute resolution system, which allows Kenya and the UAE to identify problems when they arise in as far as exporting all of these issues are concerned, and then gives us a basis to solve them quickly. Another thing that's extremely important about an agreement like this is that it signals to investors that Kenya is the gateway to Africa, and that Kenya is ready to receive sovereign funds to invest in this country, also from the Middle East, and also what I would call near sovereign funds. So the investment community in the Middle East gets indications as to where the investments will be safe, where intellectual property will be respected, where an investment mechanism has been agreed upon, how digital trade rules and data protection and all of those things will be done. So it basically sends a very comforting signal to investors to come in and invest as well. And that's why the agreement is important, because then it basically creates a transparent environment whereby we stimulate trade and investment.
First to state my history, what he's saying is true. And I can tell you it's true because I worked for a long time for the Kenya Export Promotion and Branding Agency. And we had many discussions with the UAE, and that's exactly what they were asking for in terms of an agreement. I know they have a big desire for especially goat meat from Kenya. It's quite a big demand. Now, my question then arises: what institutions are being created beneath the actual agreement? And I'm basing this, for example, off of the American agreement, AGOA, which literally is running out this year. No, it is actually about to be
September.
over. In September we'll not have AGOA. But one of the things that kept bugging me is we had a brilliant agreement with the United States, but many of our business people were not interested or capable of delivering to the United States. So the critical question for me has always been that we make very good agreements, but then what are the structures that will bring, that Maasai herder with 200 goats in the middle of Oloitoktok to have the awareness and be able to be taken through a process where they meet the phytosanitary requirements, they meet the export quality requirements, and they're able actually to track these things. And I remember, just to give people an example, South Korea once, while I was still in office, asked for bananas from Kisii. And we couldn't supply because every farmer had a different way of growing his banana, so we couldn't standardize. So my question is, agreement is good. I've gone through it. I think I don't even want to poke holes in it. My question is, what are we doing for the common mwananchi to be able to chip in? Because there's a kid somewhere who's just left school. He's looking at his 5 goats and he's thinking, is this my ticket out of poverty?
Very, very important question. I mean, trade agreements are designed so that they can be utilized. And if they're not utilized, then it's not worth their effort. One of the key things, just starting off with the United States, is that we are now exporting about $500 million into the United States. And if you look at the data, coming up with market access through AGOA really helped create this. We didn't have much of an exporting textile and garment sector before AGOA. We weren't exporting much of cashews and macadamia before AGOA, and leather and so forth. And even now, we have very strong opportunities around our tea sector. We take it that people take their tea warm and with milk, but the Americans take it cold and with the fruit flavors as a sports drink drunk by young people. So trade agreements open new markets and it creates new opportunities for new sectors to arise. Now, into the UAE, you've asked a very fundamental question. I like the fact that you say, how does this change the life of a herder that has 5 goats?
Yes.
It's probably very difficult for somebody like that to directly engage in the export market. But what we are doing is that because we have now created demand for our meat products, particularly for the small animals, we are working on improving aggregation. We are building county aggregation and investment parks, which basically will allow that small herder with 5 goats to basically take their goats for proper slaughtering, for proper flaying of the hide, and for aggregation and cold storage facilities to be done. So some of the counties are looking at the livestock sector as what they will do for the county aggregation parks. Now, once we are able to do better aggregation through that and other initiatives that we are doing, then you have small players being able to participate in the export sector, even if they are not directly engaged in that. So that is an example of some of the activities that we are doing to promote this, the county aggregation and industrial parks. We are also doing a lot of business development for mid-sized exporters that want to understand what are the export procedures, how do you sign a contract internationally, how do you deal with currency fluctuations, and so on and so forth. So that is also a second thing that we've done. One third thing is this: before we get into signing a trade agreement and getting into the negotiations, we thoroughly study that market. We thoroughly study the opportunities that are there, and then we develop tools to enable us to work with exporters. Let me share some very specific examples in the context of the UAE. We looked at the meat sector there. We realized that the UAE is importing about $2.5 billion worth of meat annually. We realized that about $1 billion of this is coming from Brazil, mostly cows. And we also realized that India, Pakistan, and New Zealand are also supplying a lot of this. Kenya is one of the larger suppliers there, maybe at about $80 million. We also then studied the retail sector and how this is actually distributed in that country. And so we learned a few things. We learned, but even before I get into the retail sector, we learned that the port of Jebel Ali in the UAE, and if we go outside the UAE to Jeddah, are mostly the two main ports whereby at least $120 million worth of our meat is getting into through those ports, whether it's through live animals or meat products. Now, we then understood who are the players, who are the importers, what are the terms, what are the issues that our importers are facing. We, for example, were not able to maintain successive orders once they were there. Then we went on to understand how is the retail sector working. We realized that in the UAE, Spinneys supermarket is serving a certain clientele, mostly the expatriates. We have Union Corp that basically is providing subsidized shopping services for Emiratis, Lulu's, Carrefour, and all these others. And we spoke to the procurement managers in all of these retail sectors. We even sent out a team that visited over 500 outlets. So we understand right down to that display section that displays meat, whereby we could see Pakistani meat and its price, Kenyan meat and its price. We understood the volumes and we understood how this is all sold. We then even went into the what you call the hotels and restaurants and cafes chain, and understood the preferences that market has for those products. How much fat do they need? What is the age of the animals that they need? We keep on exporting animals that are older than they need, and so on and so forth. So without getting too much into a rabbit hole, we have now understood this market to that level of detail that then enables us to work with our exporters to supply, for the contracts to be done properly, for us not to supply overage animals, for us to do the right cuts, for us to focus on the right animals, which is mostly sheep and goats. We have realized, for example, that there isn't too much opportunities around the exporting of chicken, for example, because about half of all the chicken they consume today are produced locally, and so on and so forth. So we are actually having a lot of work that goes before we sign a trade agreement in order for the export volumes to arise.
Okay. Just one quick question. Sorry, I'm very keen on this because I was actually involved in Expo 2020 and we had long conversations. and I must congratulate you because in my checklist in my head, you've hit almost 90% of them. Now, the 10% is that for a while, there were dubious businesses that had actually, not on the Kenyan side, by the way, for once, Kenyans were innocent, but on the Dubai side, where Kenyans would supply, and then the guys in Dubai will be like, what are you on about? We never saw this particular agreement. So is there protections, and I know this is not necessarily in the trade agreement, but are there protections, or rather a list of approved people that Kenyan businesses can supply to with the confidence that once it arrives, they are able to be paid? Because that was one of the biggest hindrances to that. Now, on the flip side, and this is just slightly off topic, there was a big question about what are the routes that Kenyans can use when they're repatriating their money to invest correctly in Kenya. How are their monies being protected? Many of them have sent money to their wives, their kindred, and found out ilikulwa. Yeah, so those are just my two questions.
Okay, I think very important questions. And this goes into the core of many of the problems that sometimes our exporters have faced exporting out there. And not just in one economy, but, we have, for example, had issues with payments whenever we have taken our tea to certain markets. And these problems arise out of mostly two things. The first thing is that sometimes when you are taking products like tea to countries that have currency conversion issues, then the availability of dollars becomes quite limited, and therefore payments are either delayed or sometimes not done. Secondly, is that unscrupulous buyers exist, and that is what you've alluded to. And how do you defend yourself from an unscrupulous buyer? One is that through a trade agreement, we have immediate and guaranteed access for dispute resolution. And that basically allows us to identify and solve problems faster than countries that may not have this kind of relationship. Two is that we are on the back of this agreement and on the back of the research that we have done, going to do a lot of training to exporters. Actually, with the State Department for Livestock Development, we are in the final stages of putting together a livestock development program. We will look at things like, how do you do a contract internationally? What are the ways in which you should ensure and guarantee? Who are some of the trusted buyers that basically we've been able to see? We would not vet a buyer because a buyer and a seller is a private relationship, but we could have information based on prior record on who some of the trusted buyers are. The other thing then that we also need to do is to improve on our volumes and how we organize our exports in such a way that then we are going to connect to more serious buyers who want higher volumes and higher qualities and have a better reputation.
And consistency.
And these are the kind of things that arise when you have an agreement like the SEPA. The third thing that arises that also helps with our export performance is investment. Trade is about investment. Most traders start off by trading, and as you get to know your customers, you get to know your buyers, you end up investing. So we believe that Kenya is now in a position to attract investment into ranching, into large-scale land ranching, and also to partner with players that have experience in this. That's why Brazil is exporting $1.1 billion worth of beef into the UAE alone. That's why countries like Uruguay are doing that. And I think it's time then that as we support the pastoralist sort of smallholder export market, that remains extremely important because of livelihoods. But then we should also build volumes and bulk by getting into the ranch business.
Indeed. Let's take a break on that point because I think there's a lot then. When we have these agreements on an international, you have the bilateral agreements on an international level, then there's a lot of work to be done at home. And that's what gets you, a leg up with the work that you do at home, because you can have the agreement, but you don't activate it here, then I guess the next part of that is to find out, so what are the activations that are happening here to ensure that, number one, you deliver, and then number two, that Kenya continues to present itself as a country that's open for business.
Yep.
So let's look at that. We are joined by the Principal Secretary in the Department of Trade and the under the MITI.
Yes.
And Alfred Ombudo is having that conversation with us this morning. And let me remind you that even for those here in the country who sometimes say, okay, so how can we marry skill and talent with opportunity? The KCB Foundation under the 2Jejiri program is reminding us that, you know what, you can have an opportunity age between 18 and 35. You have an opportunity to join a 6-month program which allows you to garner skills in very many areas: construction, electrical engineering, journalism, in terms of photographs, in terms of photography, beauty and fashion design, all sorts of things that could give you the required skills to ensure that you can then now get into a place where you open your own business, or you now are able to link with those who would be able to give you a job. And the 2Jejiri program then connects you with the toolkit, sometimes micro grants, and you have an opportunity to then get into the job market. 1 million people enter into this market. Every 150,000 people have been trained. It could be you. More information, KCB Foundation /2Jejiri. You can find out all of that information there. Good morning. It's 27 minutes to 8. We continue after the weather and traffic.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. The weather with SpiceFM.
Conditions in Nairobi at 15, and it's 15 and raining in Nakuru, and cloudy at 15, leading to rain in Nyeri. 15 and cloudy in Eldoret, and Mombasa is sunny at 24 with sunny conditions at 25 in Malindi. 19 and cloudy in Kisumu, and we're looking into cloudy conditions at 19 in Kakamega. Kampala is mostly sunny at 20, and Dar es Salaam at 27 is cloudy. 14 degrees and sunny conditions in Johannesburg, while at 26, I beg your pardon, it's sunny in Mogadishu. 13 and sunny in Addis Ababa. Lagos is mostly clear at 26, and it's mostly clear at 23 in Kinshasa.
Spice up your life.
There's quite some traffic coming off of the Eastern Bypass. We're looking at bumper-to-bumper levels coming in all the way from Jiru, and they're going to come in from that Roi interchange with quite some traffic that heads out towards North Airport Road. It's been busy coming off Kangunda Road very early this morning, and we see that. On the Thika Superhighway, traffic coming in all the way from Githurai will find its way through towards Garden City, and bumper along on the Thika Superhighway through towards Survey. It's busy on Limuru Road, busy on Gong Road, and we're also looking at some heavy traffic on parts of Waiyaki Way. One to watch for. And also coming in from Naivasha Road, there is a lot of traffic this morning, and some of that touches on Ngong Road. We're looking at heavy traffic also on Langata Road, coming in from Magadi Road as well. It's going to join with that and then try to find its way through the city. Raila Odinga Way this morning is an absolute mess, inching along through towards the city mortuary roundabout. So we are in traffic hour officially. Let's take a look at how this all opens up. Talk to us, SpiceFM KE on X, hashtag The Situation Room.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
At 24 minutes to 8 o'clock, the Principal Secretary Trade, Alfred Ombudo is our guest this hour. And we're looking at the Kenya-UAE Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement this morning. So these bilaterals, in some cases multilaterals, but for the purposes of this, it's Kenya and the UAE. And there's been an agreement to say that, okay, let's do this. Let's enhance our trade. Let's open it up a little bit. And then, like you say, well, not a little bit, because you want to triple. If you're doing $74 million of meat and $30 million of horticulture and $10 million of vegetables, you want to triple that in the next, however long. Then there requires to be, on this side in Kenya, the adequate infrastructure, communication, resources put behind, because it's not going to miraculously happen. You can't just wish it into existence. So one would then say, at the time when these agreements are being made, is there then also enhancement at home to ensure that you can actually have these numbers to fit with the agreement?
Extremely important. One of the things that needs to be done anytime that you've opened market access to new markets for new products is that people need to know. Over the last 1 month, for example, we have been to Kisumu, Eldoret, Machakos, Isiolo, Mombasa, Kajiado, and several other places to, for example, speak about the opportunities created by another agreement called the EU Economic Partnership Agreement, which we had occasion to speak about last year. And essentially what we were doing was sharing information, working with the Kenya Association of Manufacturers, with the Avocado Society, with the Kenya Flour Council, and with all those private sector players, to reach out to their members and to talk to them about what are the opportunities we are seeing, what are the products that they are able to export based on our strengths as a country, what are the export requirements that they need to be able to adhere to, what are some of the trade financing measures that currently exist, and basically also to have them think differently about the fact that participating in exports is not such as difficult an issue as sometimes it may seem. So lots of outreach has happened, and in this kind of case we shall also be doing lots of outreach for this particular agreement. We will reach out to those in the livestock community. We will reach out to them so that then they'll be able to aggregate, make sure that the animals are vaccinated, make sure that the animals can be aggregated, make sure that we talk about the importance of doing very sanitary and clean flaying of animals, and that basically improves their prices and so on and so forth. In the agriculture sector or the non-meat sector, which is the fruits and veggies and flowers, we'll also get into that. But there are lots of other activities that the State Department of Trade is already doing to show up our export performance. And I'll share some examples. Together with State Department of Industry and Investment, we are finalizing the first stages of the county aggregation and investment parks, which will provide lots of space and lots of aggregation for various commodities. And we are working quite closely with the Council of Governors that they shall be able to have these up and running. Secondly, is that we realize that we need a multi-commodity exchange in this country. A few of the crops that we have already have established methods of getting to market. For example, tea and coffee and so forth. But for a vast majority, we don't. So over the last year, we have actually worked with over 15 banks, Family Bank, ABSA, KCB, Equity, some of the government financing institutions as well, to agree on what it will take for them to actually improve lending to the agricultural sector through the commodities exchange. And we worked on this with the World Bank Group and the International Finance Corporation. We have also worked to also ensure that our warehousing in this country can be of a standard whereby the commodities, particularly food commodities, are not getting spoiled. Don't forget that we're losing close to 40% of everything that we harvest. We want to bring this down maybe to less than 10%. So the warehousing receipt system is also agreed to between us and about 15 banking institutions, warehouse operators and so forth, so that we now have a common understanding what is the design of a warehouse that can be used for agricultural commodities. What should a warehouse operator be having an ability to do? And how do we connect that to the commodity exchange so that banks are now able to provide financial services when I take my 5, 10, 15 bags to a cooperative society, maybe in soy constituency, like there's one called Mateng, which is there. And once then you're able to have your goods there, banks can now also provide some financial services for you to take kids to school and for you to get the next inputs that you need for plowing and that kind of stuff. Now, a country's ability to aggregate at that scale is extremely important for export performance. Because if we're going to, for example, take pulses to India, whereby we get lots of orders from, if we are going to be able to aggregate tea and other products in a way that sort of gives speciality to it, then aggregation is extremely important. And that is something that we have done with the warehouse receipt system and the commodity exchange. We should be launching them in just a few months from now.
Okay.
That is actually excellent news, because the warehouse receipting system is one of the things that was the biggest hindrance. Not only in terms of exports, because you need to export in quantities that are frequent and the quality is the same, and then the farmers need to get a good price, and that also gets rid of middlemen. I'm so happy. So you've answered two of my questions with that answer. So far you're doing very well.
Thank
now,
you.
The other question is, one of the biggest exports to the UAE from Kenyans is in terms of the service industry.
Yes.
Right. I think Kenya, in service industry, we're actually in a surplus.
Yes.
That we actually export more services than we import services. So heko Kenya. Now, my question is, there is of course, there's been talk about getting jobs in the UAE and things like that. But as you talk to young people, the biggest challenge actually is that they want to access remote work. So they're not necessarily looking for a passport to go to the UAE or America or wherever it is. But the problem is that we don't have agreements, perhaps with the countries in terms of where they can source the work from, agreements in terms of how these young people can get the actual jobs, because sometimes the jobs are geo-locked and they need to use VPNs and things like that. There is billions of dollars literally that young people are crying for without necessarily exiting our country. How is the ministry or your State Department dealing with the difficulties in receiving money, registering, and be considered as valid online service providers for this country? And you can look at countries like India, and I forget which other Asian country, which basically makes about $6 billion a year on just allowing its citizens to work remotely for American, British, and UAE companies.
Actually, what you raise is extremely important. The services sector is a huge driver of both our domestic economy and also our export economy.
Yes.
Sometimes we just can't see it, because you can see goods being exported. Whenever you see pictures or infographics of trade, you see containers and trucks and cranes and laboratories and that kind of stuff. You basically see the part of our export sector that is the goods side. What you do not see and is hidden is our services sector.
It's big.
But look at the data. We are exporting just about $7.2 billion worth of goods. But we're exporting $5.5 billion worth of services.
Yes.
And even in 2002, we exported about $6.9 billion. What is that telling us? It's telling us that the services sector is an extremely important part of our overall export performance. In fact, as you correctly say, we are exporting more services than we are importing services. So we're exporting 5.5 billion, we're importing 5 billion. So we are a surplus country when it comes to services. On the goods side, we have a deficit because we are exporting $7.2 billion worth of goods and importing about $18 billion.
Okay.
So we have a deficit of about 11 billion. Now, what then are we doing to ensure that we grow the services sector? The Ministry of ICT, ourselves and other players, we all have something to do, our TVETs, our education services, and so forth. You have often seen His Excellency the President make references to a young man, I believe called Brian, who is able to get into the gig economy, use his phone, and make money using this. What have we done to ensure that we have several brands in this country? The Department of ICT is basically doing Jitume laboratories and several other capacity enhancements so that internet and those kind of services are available to people outside Nairobi and all over the country. Our TVET and our Ministry of Education is placing lots of emphasis on education on ICT as a subject that basically needs to be done. But at the Ministry of Trade, we have also analyzed what other countries have done in order to grow both their services sector and also their digitally delivered services sector. And when we look at the world today, we see certain strong markets, and I'll share some specific examples. If you look at the EU is a 13 trillion euro market economy with 27 countries. If you look at the demographic profile of the EU now, it's a society that's having a lot more older people now. Businesses are increasingly starved of young people that are able to work across the economy. And that creates a very unique opportunity for countries like Kenya. We are able to digitally deliver services, be it in the accounting side, on the legal side, on the ICT side, and so on and so forth. And this then has become a key area that we are pursuing with the economic partnership agreement with the EU. We are currently undertaking an analysis in partnership with the World Bank Group and the Ministry of ICT to understand where the task orders are coming from, to understand what sort of services are needed in this area, and then work backwards with our private sector to deliver this. We also licensed Kenya's first special economic zone that is focused on services. And this also represents our vision that the services sector is providing lots of opportunities for our export performance. Thirdly, is that when you look at our quality of our data and ICT sector in terms of things that big companies care about, such as data adequacy, laws, whether, for example, data protection rights are being done properly, and so on and so forth, you will see that, for example, we have negotiated and secured common data adequacy rights with the EU, which basically means that data stored here and data processed here is assumed to have the same legal quality and protections as those in the European Union, which is a $13 trillion economy.
Right.
And so on and so forth. But if I may basically just touch on one other thing in the services sector, we realize that there are certain sub-sectors within services that are driving our export performance.
All right.
This is transport and freight services. This is travel, which includes business travel and tourism. But a key one is financial services, insurance, and all those areas to do with that sector. So when you see the likes of Equity Bank and KCB Bank going out into the region and basically offering services in places like the DRC, this represents a very strong part of where we expect our services export growth to come from, and we shall be working quite closely with those sectors to ensure that they're able to grow. In fact, my thinking is that in less than another 5, 6, 7 years, we may actually be exporting more services than we're exporting goods.
So then, when you look at that, because I think it's possible to have a marriage of the two. If we look at the countries on the planet, on the globe today, who have reached some level of economic independence, we see that actually none of them have gone this way without enhancing their manufacturing sector and their investment and trade. That they've become mechanized, that they have become automatic in nature with what they do and how they produce. And so we've seen this on a global scale. That's just how they sell, that's how they trade. And in order for us to do business with them optimally, then we also have to be kind of on the same page. That mechanization has to take, center stage, that manufacturing has to be top notch. It's difficult to compete with somebody who has trained and achieved that status if you're just still in the baby pool, essentially. So then the question is, what are the plans for that? But as you say this, there are some countries who may be mechanized but do not export on that global scale. I'll take Hungary, for example. Hungary exports more than anything else. It's education. It's education and it's science, it's technology, and it's putting that out on a global scale. So the agreement for them is to realize, well, this is one thing that we do and that we do well and that the world needs. it's not a secret that Kenya, with its services, because speaking of, able the command of the language, number one, number two, how it's been able to work in different markets. If we look at the Gulf, if we look at certain countries in Europe, is it maybe a way to make a shift and say this should be something that we could focus on instead of trying to compete on the mechanization scale where we're clearly behind?
Well, very interesting insights from you, and thanks for that. Look, I think I agree with you on one side is that we have to do more than one thing at the same time. We have to keep on manufacturing and exporting based on our core strengths. A lot of this is still at the commodities level. We export a lot of raw commodities, but manufacturing has also been taking root. If you look at our export performance within the EAC and COMESA, we are taking sweets to Malawi. We are taking school socks to DRC. We are taking cement to South Sudan. So we are actually manufacturing. One of the key concerns that has been affecting manufacturing is the cost of electricity, and that has modified our value proposition vis-a-vis a few of our neighbors, for example. And let's not forget, over time, people learn how to make things. So the things that Kenya, for example, was undisputedly manufacturing in the 70s and 80s and 90s, over time you can expect that our neighbors should gain ability to produce some of these things. The quality of machines that are able to do manufacturing, you press one button here, pour a bucket full of something on this side, and something else comes out on the other side. So what that means for us is this. Kenya needs to increasingly make things that are difficult to make.
Absolutely. Or that only they can make.
And only they can make, or very few people can make. And what does this mean? It basically means that we need to get more into automotive manufacturing, or make parts thereof that can get into global supply chains. It means that we should substitute the more than $500 million and $60 million worth of pharmaceuticals that we are importing from India and Switzerland respectively. It means that we should basically get into the ICT sector in a large way for us to be able to host data centers that are basically mining information, whether it's for crypto or whether it is for other uses. We need to get into those sectors because we have educated people. We have a good environment to attract professionals, and we basically have what it takes to enter into these supply relationships. And this is where the trade agreements come in.
I need to ask this.
Sure, go ahead.
Does the department that you belong to also focuses on trade in country?
Yes, we do.
Because everything we're saying here makes perfect sense, but every year we have an increasing number of Kenyans who actually can't afford to eat.
Well, food inflation has gone down significantly over the last 2 years. We have done a very major fertilizer program that has brought the cost of food down.
Yes.
And the CPI on food is down.
Yes. This actually isn't your department. Yes, everything you've said is yes. But what I said was there are people who cannot afford. Not that the price of food has gone down. No. There are people who face starvation.
Yes.
And the number increases. My reference here is trade.
Yes.
And the capacity of the country and the counties to trade with each other.
Yes.
So that before we have these high-flung ideas of what we want to do with technology, we actually feed ourselves first. If we know the strength that each county has, and we perhaps give a little more attention to the trade, inter-county trade, so that Nyandara, instead of pouring its milk when there's an overflow of it, know directly where this thing can go. One, we take care of our people. But in the process, we also pilot as to how these newfangled ideas about technology and what have you, we get to do them in a space where we have benefited from them. So when we take them out, it becomes that much easier. I have a problem with focusing primarily. Again, this is not a problem that is directed at your ministry. This is a policy that we have with regards to how we manage our people. When we focus on doing things which bring us money and the fundamentals of simply looking after the basic livelihoods of our people, and this is where department comes in. Your department can help in ensuring that this actually works, so that all these things that our people do and produce can actually help other parts of the country where such things are not produced, and so the trade is actually enhanced.
You know, CT, as you talk about Kenya, there is the Africa Free Trade Agreement, which was supposed to actually answer the question CT is asking, where trading between Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, Ghana, whatever, was supposed to be easier. Where are we on that? And because time is also going, AGOA is about to end, which I know a lot of the textiles and whatever, which hire Kenyans, tailors and things like that in our special economic zones. What is going to happen with that?
Okay, thank you so much. Let me start off with what CT basically talked about. External trade gets a lot of attention granted because it involves our relationships with other countries. We talk about foreign exchange and so on and so forth. But you're right. The basis for that is to ensure that our domestic trade is also working properly, and that we need to solve the problems that are confronting that sector. In 2012, we devolved trade as a function to the counties, and therefore we now have 47 partners that we are working with to ensure that trade works well at the domestic level. So issues like licensing, issues like markets development and so forth is a devolved function which the counties are responsible for, but which we work closely with them to ensure that it still happens. What are some of the things that we are doing in the domestic space? In the domestic space, we are working with the Council of Governors and the counties and a number of players to ensure that we remove or we regulate cess between products that are moving from county to county. We've made some progress in terms of trying to agree on formulas around how those charges could be done. We are working, like I previously said, to ensure that aggregation can be done. And this is not just for exports, because if we are able to aggregate potatoes better in Nyandarua in a way whereby they have access to cold storage, someone in Kisumu or in Moyale then has better access to that, and they can be consumed better. If in West Pokot, which is a big area for potatoes as well, they are able to have good county aggregation parks for that, then it means that companies like Tropical Heat and others that basically make potato crisps are going to be able to have a more predictable source of raw material.
Right.
And so we've done about 11 or I think 18 county aggregation parks in association with the county governors. And this is to support local trade as well.
I'm sorry, Piers, but you know the thing is, we need you to come back, because an hour is just not enough to go to. And as we start to have these conversations, realize that even at the local level, there's so much that needs to be done.
Yes.
And we need to see what government, is doing, and that conversation needs to happen with Kenyans as well. So this is an open invitation to come back, and let's open this up a little bit more.
Yes.
And I'm assuming that your answer is yes, so we're going to go with that.
Yes, we'll go with that.
Yes.
FCTA is an area whereby we're very keen to continue doing a lot of exporting. We're exporting about $3 billion there, and maybe that's where we could start off next time.
All right.
Because Uganda is our major trading partner.
The Principal Secretary in the State Department of Trade has been our guest this hour, Alfred Kombuda. Thank you so much. Until we talk again.
Thank you so much. Always a pleasure to be here. And see you next time.
It's 8 a.m.
Yeah.
Good morning, this is the News Wire. I'm Leah. More women were killed in 2024, making it the deadliest in terms of femicide since 2018. Analysis shows that 170 women died at the hands of current or former intimate partners during the year. The data crunched by Odipo Devon African Censored shows that 2024 had the blood of women spilled with husbands' involvement accounting for close to 50% of perpetrators. The report shows it is based on an analysis of over 930 female murders in Kenya since 2016, draws from court records and media reports to provide fresh insights into patterns of violence against women. Now, this even comes as a 42-member task force appointed by President William Ruto to assess and review femicide cases in the country and recommend measures to address the problem was sworn in yesterday.
We are going to serve the Republic diligently. This is a task that calls for our collective action as a country.
Mine is to appreciate, as Piers already has said, to appreciate His Excellency the President of the Republic of Kenya, Dr. William Samoei Ruto, for appointing us and for seeing it fit within his mandate that femicide and GBV is indeed not only bad but very, very dangerous. And therefore, he appointed us to see to it what is it that can be done to end femicide and GBV in this nation.
And in another case of alleged abduction, the High Court in Nakuru is today expected to give further directions in the case of Brian Odhiambo, who went missing on 18th January after he was arrested by KWS officers. Appearing before the court yesterday, Nakuru East DCIO and officer in charge at KWS said they were unable to produce him in court as ordered. They claimed that missing youth Brian, who was allegedly abducted by Kenya Wild Service officers, escaped from custody.
Watupate to Brian venye hako tu. Me, I'll just take him the way he is, whether dead or alive. Akiwa ameumizwa, I'll just nurse the wounds.
Na ndio maana nilimbebea jacket akuja vae, amekulwa na baridi ya kutosha na sijamuona.
Sarah Wairimu has moved to the High Court seeking to halt her impending prosecution over the murder of her husband, Tob Cohen. Wairimu, who is being held at the Lang'ata Women's Prison, is accusing DPP Renson Ngonga of abusing his prosecutorial powers by relying on compromised evidence to charge her in connection with the 2019 murder. In an application filed before the Milimani Court, she said on December 2022, the DPP made a decision not to pursue the charge, which led to her being ultimately discharged. Wairimu was initially arrested and charged with the brutal murder of Cohen. The DPP Nudin Haji later withdrew the charges, citing insufficient evidence. However, the state now says it has new evidence that can sustain a murder charge against Wairimu and wants her to plead afresh to charges of murder. And finally, on the international scene, the president of crisis-hit Democratic Republic of Congo was set to meet his Rwandan counterpart at an emergency summit today as fighters backed by Kigali appeared on the brink of seizing the key city of Goma. The M23 armed group took control of Goma's airport on Tuesday following days of intense clashes that killed more than 100 people and wounded nearly 1,000, according to an AFP tally of tolls from the city's overflowing hospitals. The M23's lightning offensive marks a major escalation in the DRC's troubled east, haunted by the legacy of the 1994 Rwanda genocide and plagued by fighting between armed groups backed by regional rivals in its aftermath. That's the News Wire. I'm Leah Ubaga.
.5 Spice FM, Kisumu.
Are you ready to become Kenya's next biggest music star? Do you have what it takes to compete with the best and walk away with over 1 million Kenyan shillings in grand prizes? Auditions are open for Kenya Star Search on Saturday 1st of February and Sunday 2nd February at the Nairobi City Charter Hall from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Come through and show us what you're made of. Proudly sponsored by Skiza, Techno Kenya, Sunlink, Wairimu Kenya, and Boomplay.
Are you a young person looking to unlock your potential? Are you ready to take the future in your hands? If so, then listen up. KCB to Jejiri is the plan. It's designed to empower young people like you, develop skills and knowledge you need to succeed in life. KCB to Jejiri combines vocational skills training, business development training, access to finance and business mentorship, preparing youth for jobs, entrepreneurship and wealth creation. Don't be left out. Visit kcbgroup.com/foundation to learn more.
Are you ready to unleash your creativity and dive into the dynamic world of media? Then listen up. At Standard Talanta Academy, a collaboration between Talanta Institute and Standard Group, we are redefining the rules of the game. With our Media Mastery course, you'll embark on a journey that goes beyond the ordinary. From TV and film production, photography to digital journalism, our curriculum is designed to equip you with the skills needed to thrive in today's media landscape. But we are not just about theory, we are about action. Our hands-on approach means you will be creating, producing, and innovating from day one. And with Standard Group, home to KTN, Radio Maisha, SpiceFM, and the Standard newspaper, you'll have unparalleled access to industry expertise and real-world opportunities. So, if you're ready to turn your passion into profit, join us at Standard Talanta Academy and unlock your full potential. Visit www.talanta.ac.ke or call 0724 468 468 for more information. Standard Talanta Academy. Unleash creativity.
Okay, a few minutes after 8 o'clock, let's see what's happening on the streets this morning. It was looking gloomy, but maybe the sun will shine at some point, but not just yet. It's very busy on Mombasa Road today, and this is coming in all the way from Capital Centre, heading out then towards the CBD. It'll meet with traffic that's coming in off Langata Road, and some of that traffic will find its way off towards the City Waterway roundabout, and that is coming off of Ngong Road. The Thika Superhighway, very heavy with traffic coming in from the Allsops Junction, and Kiambu Road traffic is lengthening, going all the way into the direction of the Northern Bypass. We're finding some traffic also then coming in towards Muranga Road. That's also extremely busy today. Westlands also a beehive of activity, and there's traffic coming off Limuru Road as well. Very, very, very busy this morning. So let's keep our eyes on all of this. Talk to us and let's try to keep things moving. SpiceFM KE on X, hashtag The Situation Room.
Are you a young person looking to unlock your potential? Are you ready to take the future in your hands? If so, then listen up. KCB to Jejiri is the plan. It's designed to empower young people like you, develop skills and knowledge you need to succeed in life. KCB to Jejiri combines vocational skills training, business development training, access to finance and business mentorship, preparing youth for jobs, entrepreneurship and wealth creation. Don't be left out. Visit kcbgroup.com/foundation to learn more.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Good morning at 10 minutes after 8 o'clock into the third hour of Kenya's biggest conversation this morning. Where are you streaming in from? On our YouTube, Facebook or X, Karibu Sana, and keep it here. And our audiences on KTN. Thank you for being here this morning. We will have switch things a little bit and have a conversation at this hour about some of the bubbling issues and the intrigues that are going on a global scale that affect us here, whether we like it or not. But as we get into that, let me remind you that the KCB Foundation Tujiajiri program is making sure that young people who enter into the job market right now, standing at 1 million people every year, have an opportunity to connect where they've not been able to, get the education that they need to work, to be able to do so by joining the program. So what happens? Youth employment continues to be a challenge for the majority of African of the African continent. The overall unemployment stands at 12.7% in Kenya, and with youth between 15 and 34 years old, who form 35% of the Kenyan population, they have the highest unemployment rate of 67%. Over 1 million people into this job market annually get in without the skills that they need. Some of them are school dropouts, others have maybe completed schools or have not even enrolled in any college. So the KCB Foundation established the Tujiajiri program in 2016 and was to empower these particular folks and equip the unemployed and out of school youth in the informal sector to start and grow micro enterprises. So they combine vocational skills training, business development training, access to finance and business mentorship. And it's designed to prepare them for entrepreneurship, thus spurring the growth and development of the micro, small and micro enterprises across communities. They're trained in key sectors like job creation, potential, construction, manufacturing, beauty and personal care, domestic care, and the list goes on. You can join the Tujiajiri program as well. What you need to do is log on to www.kcbgroup.com/foundation. Many things have been happening over the last couple of days. With the inauguration of Donald Trump, there came very, very quick announcements about what his administration was going to do and how that would affect geopolitics and how that would affect world engagement and activation. Now, it was expected because we saw the readings of such during his last administration that there had already been planned for the heavy reduction of a lot of the aid that went out to countries. He said it. His administration was clear on it, and very few days after he was inaugurated, I mean, it's the 8th day of his presidency, essentially, today, he then made it clear that the USAID, which is the United States Agency for International Development, was going to reduce significantly its funding, and that is the umbrella body under which a lot of funding then goes to many countries around the world. Kenya is one of those receptors. The USAID with regional offices here, then under which we have agencies like PEPFAR and a lot of other medical aid, essentially have stopped their operations in less than 24 hours. What does this mean exactly for a lot of the nations who depend on it? I know that we'll be looking into some of the health implications later on in the week, but today we're looking at now what African nations, and I say African nations specifically because we are the ones who take up the majority of the aid that is given out by, let's just take America, for example. The interdependence that we have on this aid, and that is why everybody and their uncle has their knickers in a twist over this recent announcement that if this aid is cut, then by golly, what are we going to do? And I think that it is a very almost treacherous situation whereby someone's helping hand has been withdrawn and economies are now starting to ask themselves, what are we going to do? And I think it puts us in a very precarious situation. And my cry has been from the very beginning that you must be at a place that you're already standing on your feet, so that in case whatever somebody is doing for you then is removed, you still remain on your feet. And so the argument of the interdependence of developing nations on the developed nations comes into play right here. And I think that this gives an opportunity once again for nations to say, guys, where are we? This is not what we want. That if you have one president who comes in and says, well, we're going to pull it, then what happens to you?
Do you know how much the Kenyan government invests in research?
I know how much they don't.
Well, 0 is a good number to start with. 2, we have active programs that are literally created to avoid the spread of dangerously communicable diseases. Cholera, TB, polio vaccines, name it. We do not have the capacity to do all of those things ourselves. And to make it even more interesting is mosquito nets, 50% of them, thereabout, are donated. Suddenly, Kenyans' ability to access contraceptives, protective ones against venereal disease, are going to be affected. So these are things that affect the common Mwananchi.
Yeah.
Then let us look at how many people are employed around USAID projects in this country. Let's talk about how many children's homes depend on USAID. Let's talk about how many feeding programs depend on USAID.
Yeah.
The question becomes, can a country like Kenya really survive without USAID?
You know, the health implications are actually, we said we'll discuss this on Friday, but they are not only broad, but they're very far-reaching. Remember that the PEFA, the Presidential Emergency Fund for HIV and AIDS Relief, that treatment covers over 21 million people across 55 countries on the planet. And when you interrupt treatment, what you then do is you create resistance to the drug. And the strain of HIV that is drug resistance is then perpetuated. Now, the eventual outcome of this is that there's a likelihood that millions of people will die. It's not really that complicated. It's very straightforward. Part of the aid that was given had to do with what you call opportunistic diseases that arise from HIV and AIDS. You're talking about TB, you're talking about malaria.
Yeah.
Now, and many others. The direct causal effect will be immense. Okay? But let me pause. Side by side with this, remember, PEPFAR was an emergency fund. 20 years down the line, the question has to be asked, and this is, it sheds a spotlight on our preparedness and on our ability to utilize the assistance we've gotten for the length of time, 20 years, we've gotten it, and what we've done with it. Are we less dependent on this aid, or are we just as dependent as we were? If you then move to the area of international or foreign policy and how it was touched by the pronouncements that President Trump made, whether you're talking about Ukraine, whether you're talking about the Middle East, Israel, and Palestine, what you are saying is that somehow there will be a shift, not in global alliances, but in the globe as we know it.
It is a new world order. It is a new world order.
It will dramatically change. When you look at the pronouncements regarding WHO, okay, again, the WHO fraternity have depended on the assistance that the US provides.
Dependent for $500 million per year, absolutely.
Yes. Now, with that gone, suddenly you will find that, again, there will be no gap, because people have, there are countries that have already pronounced themselves on saying, we will fill that gap, there shouldn't be a problem. The shifts that will occur globally will be profound. Now, the question that concerns me is, how will all this affect us?
You know, let's look at trade. And I think when the PS was here, he didn't have time to answer this question. First, directly on Kenyans, much of our EPZ is aimed at the United States.
Yes.
And the United States has created tariffs, right, that were affordable for Kenyan companies. If Trump continues on this track he's on and reintroduces tariffs, Kenyans will be virtually locked out of the American market because they will be outpriced because of one, VAT. Two, our cost of material is higher because we don't produce materials here. And three, the distance between Kenya and the United States is expensive to cover. Now, what does that mean for Kenyan Mwananchi? The people who work in our EPZs, their jobs are in danger. Let's start there. Two, without the leverage that President Ruto had successfully leveraged with Trump, right, being made a significant NATO ally, we have to ask ourselves whether...
With Biden.
Yes, with Biden.
Yeah, not Trump, yeah.
Yes, with Biden, sorry. With Trump, does he have to continue caring about the Haitians who eat their cats and dogs? And then what becomes the fate of our police officers in Haiti?
And this is the thing for me, that from the very beginning, I think we have a design flaw.
Yeah.
A design flaw in operations. That why do we insist that this dependency syndrome that we clearly are suffering from had to be designed in the manner it was in, without realizing or understanding that just because of the way foreign policy works, international or local foreign policy, that the way it works is that it is not static in nature. It is fluid. And it is fluid based on the fact that you do not have one president for life. That an individual who comes into power is likely to change the way things have been by virtue of the fact that they are a different character. That's number one. Number two, it is not aid. You are not Siamese twins. You are not joined by the hip. They are helping you. And one day they could decide that they're not going to do that anymore. That we do not understand this, or that we do actually, it's even worse. That we do understand this, and that we know that one day it will run out, and we still choose to do nothing about it until the trumpet call, like has happened just 2 days ago, and then now you start to panic. So I ask you, would it have been so terrible? What if? Because it's not just Kenya that's crying. Other countries are crying.
It's almost all of Africa.
The whole of Africa is crying now. And you ask yourself, do we even see now where we should be? Do we understand that kind of the question that you asked? How about you even start by feeding your own people? Let's just even start there. Feed your people. Educate your children. Set up proper infrastructure. Don't eat the goose that lays the golden egg, as those who are in positions of leadership, or anybody who has an opportunity to turn the wheel in a particular direction. That you can chart your course so that you sit at the table, not the dog under the table who is begging for crumbs to fall, but sit at the table and play like one of the big cats. This is the problem that we are facing today, because if you hadn't, it's a design issue. Look at it. You're talking about export processing zones that have been designed to feed the American market. And why not designed to feed the world?
You know, as a student of history, this has happened before. When the Soviet Union fell, there was a line of funding that stopped coming to African countries. That line of funding was provided by the United States to countries that were against socialism. CT, I'm sure you remember this. Now, what we call the African Renaissance, including here in Kenya, was orchestrated by the fact that the competition to provide aid between the former USSR and the US dropped. And when it dropped, it spelled the doom of people like Mobutu Sese Seko and so many other African dictators that we saw becoming democratized in the 90s. That's why we had a lot of multi-party, single-party states becoming multi-party. Now, this is actually the biggest problem. That aid, as far as governments are concerned, are not entities to be used to help the common Mwananchi. It is usually free money. out of 100% that has been received, 70% goes to administration, and if you are lucky, 30% does exactly what it's supposed to do. So for me, this is a blessing in disguise. Just the same way in 1992 it forced African countries to think seriously about the economies and begin to know that you're not going to get a budget surplus from the United States because they want you to remain their ally. Now, all these ILRIs and other research institutes that we have in this country, which were involved in, for example, in the production of the COVID vaccine, it is time they actually worked. We have a robust pharmaceutical industry. We literally have the capacity to copy what the Indians did. It is not rocket science to be able to produce thin pieces of rubber so that people can use them to control the effect of venereal disease. When COVID 2020 happened, we suddenly discovered
that we can wash our hands
and we can and we can produce PPEs and masks over here. It is time, and this is why City's question was so important.
It is time.
It is time that Kenya and indeed Africa was able to supply these things for themselves, because it's not rocket science.
And we keep giving the example of rocket science, but guess what? Somebody figured it out, right?
Yes.
Even rocket science, somebody figured it out. We gave the example yesterday of South Africa. In the time that South Africa's economy grew to the point that now we can talk about it even in BRICS, for example, was the time where it had been shut out by the rest of the world because of apartheid. It was in that time that South Africa's economy grew. Look at the economy of China. When did that economy grow? When they decided to be insular about every single decision they made, whether it was economic, whether it was government, whether it was leadership, whether it was infrastructural growth, whatever it was, they said, we are going to look inside. Former late President Moi, call him whatever you want to call him, but he said something, and he said we have to have African problems, African solutions for African problems. And there is a great lot of wisdom in what he was saying. That we cannot implement something like that is a whole different story. But what are we looking at when it comes to this thing? And I think it's actually a good thing. Let them shut you out so that you have an opportunity to say, you know what, we either sink or we swim. Here's the opportunity for you to do something about your economies. Here's the opportunity for you to take the bull by the horns and actually grow in the manner in which you should. Start by feeding your people. Start by educating your children. Start by having proper road networks. Start by ridding yourselves of corruption and mismanagement and improper leadership. Start from there. Things that it would not have fixed anyway.
You know, City, I don't know whether in your house, when you're budgeting for the month, you budget for aid from Do. Is that part of your budget?
Budget with what I have.
Thank you. That's what Giuliani said. Work with what you have. It is amazing, and you mentioned this. Traore has been able to remove his country out of debt in a year. There is something that can be done. And the appeal to our leaders is to stop taking for granted that the United States, as it budgets for itself, is also budgeting for you.
You see the understanding, and you put it well, of aid in any form in the African context. No, let me be specific. In the Kenyan context, that is money that must be gobbled up.
Yes.
And damn the developments for which it was intended.
True.
20 years of funding. This year alone, the year 2024 to 2025, PEPFAR had allocated 43 billion shillings for this country. 43. Okay.
That's a whole ministry, by the way.
Okay. Now, and for specifically one particular area, you have to ask the question, the billions that have been spent, there are many lives that have been saved. There are many, many changes that we've seen. But does it represent the totality of the investment? The answer is no.
I have to ask you a question, CT, because this was where I was going. And we started a research question. We're going to go to break in a bit, and we come back and continue with this. You worked in a program that came directly under PEPFAR funding, right? It was funded by that. the majority of the people who worked under that program, right? I'm saying the majority, and the people who were also in the Kemri consultancies who worked across the board, where were they from?
Kenya.
They were Kenyans. They were Kenyans.
We had partners from the US, but they were Kenyans. The vast majority were Kenyans.
So the researchers, the scientists, the doctors,
the care treatment, treatment personnel, yes.
The researchers.
And then their families. Yes.
Did you, at the start of the program, is that when you started going to school?
No.
Or you had come into the program with expertise, with knowledge, with understanding?
Trained, yes.
You were trained?
Yes.
You already had that?
And I acquired more training and more understanding.
Before you knew that such a thing existed, you had that, but on the job, I'm sure you acquired more training as you went along.
HIV was actually a new disease. So a lot of the learning had to take place as you are going about the business. But prior to that,
fundamental...
Yes, I had training.
Do you see where I'm going with this?
Yes, I see where you're going with this.
Okay, let's take a break and then we can come back and talk about this a little bit more. And the real need for us to understand what we have and to be able to take that potential and activate it for our growth is what we should be pushing for here, so that, you know what, when the mountain rumbles, then you realize, hold on, it's next to us, we are not beneath it. This conversation continues. It's 28 minutes to 9 o'clock. Continues after this.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. The weather with SpiceFM.
Cloudy conditions in Nairobi. We'll see highs of 23 and highs of 24 in a cloudy Nakuru. It's cloudy in Nyeri with highs of 24 and mostly cloudy at 17 in Eldoret. Sunny conditions at 29 in Mombasa and sunny at 28 in Malindi. It's 21 and cloudy in Kisumu with 19 and cloudy conditions in Kakamega. The sun is up in Kampala. We'll go to highs of 28, while Dar es Salaam will see highs of 33. And we're looking into a sunny Johannesburg at 17, while Mogadishu at 28 is sunny. It's at 15 and partly sunny in Addis Ababa. Lagos is partly cloudy at 27, while into Kinshasa is sunny at 23.
Sugar and spice and everything nice. Spice FM.
Spice up your life.
All right, a quick look at how this has all changed. Let's look at still some heavy traffic coming off of Kiambu Road today, and then I think we're starting to see a reduction of traffic on the Thika Superhighway. You'll get to Survey where your service lanes come to an end, and that's where it'll all slow down. Also, as you come onto Mombasa Road from Capital Centre out towards the CBD, there's some traffic. Langata Road still continues to be very busy, as it is on Gong Road and Waiyaki Way moving out west. Magadi Road will still has some traffic as you then approach Langata Road, so there's bumper to bumper there. All manageable, I think, but we're keeping an eye on all of this. A quick look at the Eastern Bypass, and there is still some traffic as you head towards North Airport Road, and then traffic coming in from Outer Ring just at the loop. All right, we're coming out of traffic hour soon enough. We'll talk on SpiceFM, KE on X, hashtag the Situation Room.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
20, I've forgotten how to do math. 25 minutes to the top of the hour. And we continue with this conversation. Why are we panicking? And I think we panic for lack of planning.
You know, I'm literally lifting my hands because I'm about to preach.
You want to preach? Okay.
Can I preach?
So, Scoffle.
City. Do you know a country called Taiwan? Taiwan has almost zero natural resources.
It's essentially a piece of rock.
Oh, yes. Taiwan, from the beginning, was a state that knew that the Chinese would attack anytime. And they sat down and thought, what must we do?
Not the Chinese, mainland China.
China, yes. Now, they thought to themselves, we need to make ourselves important enough that wealthy countries would want to defend us. So they came up with a plan. They sent a couple of engineers to go learn how to make microchips for computers. They specialized in that technology so well that there is no other country in the world that produces higher grades of chips that you use on your phone, your computer, everything. And you have seen whether it is Biden or Trump stand up for Taiwan. They did that 30 years ago on a piece of rock. Let me give you another example. South Korea had a problem with its youth. So they thought perhaps they need to do something about the music industry. So about 30 years ago, they decided that 1%, not 2, 1% will be used on making sure every government department has a small budget to hire a musician. Today, what they call K-pop is the second most popular kind of music in the world, and they don't sing in English. The solutions are easy. The desires...
Totally different question.
Thank you. And this is the problem with Africa. Our desire for good is low. Our desire for food is high. I finished my sermon.
Thanks be to God.
You see, whenever you receive aid,
yes,
the whole purpose of it is so that you can be self-reliant. Please understand, if I'm to carry on with part 2 of your sermon.
Yes.
After the Second World War, Germany needed to be rebuilt.
Yes.
And Germany was helped.
Yes.
After the Second World War, Japan needed to rebuild.
Yes.
It was helped.
South Korea.
South Korea the same. I give those examples and I ask, look at where those countries are today.
Yes.
What did they do with the help that they got?
Yes. Israel.
It's not a complicated question.
They did what they were supposed to do with it.
Yes.
Yes.
Very simply. That they rebuilt.
They not only they rebuilt, they learned to be self-reliant.
On it.
And the countries that we speak of are now world leaders.
Yes.
World leaders.
Yes.
You're talking about, you're talking microchips. You may talk vehicles.
Yes.
Let's talk ships.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
Ships. Huge ships. Let's talk planes. I mean, the industrial complex that these countries have is massive.
Yes.
Again, it is a question, is a testimony of what they did with the help that they got. But it's a testimony of their people, who their people are and how they see themselves and what they're willing to do for themselves.
Yes.
Not what they're willing to sit and beg for.
And there's a lot of entitlement in Africa. Africa generally thinks we are owed.
Yes.
2, when you look at Asians and you ask them, what countries are you proud of? They'll start Singapore. They'll say China. They'll say Japan.
Indonesia.
If you are asked which African country are you proud of,
you'll say Germany.
You see,
or America.
The African black identity even considers leaving the country, going to the United States of America land, and flipping burgers a better existence than living in Africa.
Let me ask you a difficult question.
Yes.
Okay? A lot of times we talk about being owed. There's a big debt as a result of colonialism for Africa, and especially for Africa. You may look at the Indian subcontinent and some parts where the plunder really did take place.
Yes.
But let's look at Africa, because I mean, it was quite deep.
Yes.
Okay. Beyond colonialism, there was proper assimilation that took place in a lot of countries, and so you took on the persona of other nations.
Yes.
There's still some who are suffering to date.
Yes.
So there is the idea that those who practiced and entrenched colonialism owe African nations, which, popular or unpopular, I actually agree with. That there's an element that they do owe. You do. However, this is the question. Had colonization not taken place, and these nations, however, they decided to put themselves together and form their own nations, and if Africa remained one big block, if that was going to be the case, because we're talking about different countries that essentially were split in 1884 in the Berlin Conference, right? If that did not happen today, do you think that Africa would be on the development index as we want to compare with the rest of the world?
Me teacher.
It's a yes or no question.
Me teacher.
Huh?
Me teacher.
Is it
China?
Answer my
No,
question.
hold on.
He's answering your question.
I'm answering your question.
He, instead of beginning with A, he's begun with C.
Okay.
Yes.
China.
Which African country are you proud of?
China.
Thanks.
China and India were one of the, in fact, they were the richest countries and were colonized by the British. I want to tell you two stories so that we get over this idea that Africans are owed because we were colonized.
No, leave the owing alone.
Just hear me out. Just give me a chance. China, the British got nearly half of their population addicted to heroin.
Opium.
They literally had to conquer the Chinese, get their people addicted to opium, die miserable lives. China rose. India, during Churchill, was so starved to death. Tens of millions died. There's a sad picture of a man skinny as a bone and his wife and children literally dying at his feet. But he's standing ready to protect his children and wife from the neighbors who are willing to eat them in India. The British, the Europeans are not guilty just in Africa. But I learned one thing, just one. If the person who offended you, you go to ask, please give me reparations, you've still not gotten your power. The answer is both China and India, in retaliation, equally took from the Americans their technology, their patents, and manipulated their currencies against the dollar.
So the problem that we're dealing with in Africa is not because people came and took your resources or beat you into any kind of submission. Are we trying to say that the problem that we have in Africa is an inherent African issue?
It is a Stockholm syndrome. You cannot be kidnapped, abused by a Briton, then you go back and you tell the same Briton to help you. How?
So I ask again. If colonialism had not taken place, colonization, whatever the case may be, had not taken place in Africa, do you think that at this time we would all be sitting at the global table saying,
Yes.
But you know,
we would have done it on our own.
No,
we would have done it on our own.
No, we wouldn't have, because we wouldn't have.
Okay.
All these nations that we speak of, long before even the word colonization was invented, had infusions of invasions from other places. So a lot of what they were learning were a factor of what other people brought with them and married with what they already had. If you're talking about roads, if you're talking about the culture of writing, if you're talking, this world has always been influencing itself by learning from others. What we fail to appreciate is that there are powers, countries that are smart, and I dare say smarter than us in this sense. They created narratives, colonialism was one of them, which we imbibed.
With open arms.
Yes, we did. And we didn't understand that what was actually being held captive was not our body, it was our minds.
Yes.
And they continue to do so because they long understood through practice with their own immediate neighbors. Great Britain, their neighbors are the Welsh. It's a completely different community. They're not English.
Nope.
The Irish, completely different,
The
even
Scottish.
with a different language.
Yeah.
Okay? The English determined they would dominate these people. They had ample practice.
Yes.
Before they came out and went to other places, they had practiced. They had fought with their neighbor France. They had done stuff. The point I'm trying to make is this. When you're dealing with somebody that clever, please pause and learn from them.
True.
You just take stock and ask yourself, how does this person go about this business that they're doing, and they're doing so well? Because they do it very well. Do you think that if you're talking about the 1920s, 30s, 40s, 50s, that when Africans were given scholarships to study in these countries, you think they suddenly developed a love for Africans?
Oh, come on.
No.
No. They had long understood, the British more so than others. The way to do this thing is let their people subjugate them.
Yes.
Let their people rule
Let
over
their own
people do these
do it.
things.
And that's how the slave
Yes.
trade was able to thrive in the manner that it
Yes,
did.
yes.
They did not just come to Africa and pick up people from the homesteads and take them away. No.
How
There
would
was
they know where to find these
somebody-
people also?
There was somebody that was facilitating them then. And let me tell you, today, there are still people that are facilitating them today.
Now,
yes.
Can I
Even in this aid that we are talking about. And that is why I'm telling you guys, it's a thing of the mind. To the point where now people are having press conferences and complaining, oh, what are we going to do? But we've put ourselves in the same situation. We've put ourselves in the situation by ourselves.
You know, before the Black Plague and then the consequent cholera outbreaks in London, the Thames River was full of human waste. Okay? These people used to live with rats so much they got the plague. Coming from that, they came to Africa. And there's this great story that comes from central Kenya, where a priest came and he was trying to convert the people of the mountain. And he had a problem. They were not listening to him. So what
language was he speaking, first of all?
Of course, he was speaking English. Okay. Yeah. So he figured out a good plan. So he came with blankets. And this is the same thing they did in the Americas, by the way. They came with blankets laced with leprosy and such diseases.
This is a story, of course.
Yes.
Are there facts to support it?
Yes, it's historical. In fact, I'll send you the Red Indian version of this. Now, of course, our medicine...
I suspect you mean the Native
Americans.
Yes.
Okay, yeah. Carry on.
So, what happened is our medicine men could not treat their people because it was a new disease. Then he had the ointment, the anointing. And he told them, this is the anointing that is going to heal you. Having known what he had given them as a disease, he told them, from now on, your mganga is bad and Jesus is good. There is literally a Kikuyu song that I forget the title that literally sings about that moment. Mm-hmm. Now, why do I say this? I say this because one of the most critical things people miss in mathematics, when it is a law by a white man, it has his name. Newton's law, Archimedes' principle, all of them, you know their stories. But when it came from India or Arabia, it's called a quadratic equation.
Who was quadratic?
Exactly. It was not Abdullah or Isa. Every single mathematical law, physical law that was discovered by a non-European is called by a technical name.
But let me ask you something. Huh? The story of our continent and the colonizer, and I agree with you here, is not a story of our continent and the colonizer. It's a story of our continent and the sellouts.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
And our people who have consistently sold us out.
And are still selling us out till today.
Yes, it's the colonizer is just doing his thing.
Yes.
Leave the colonizer out of that story.
In fact, if you ask me, it was serendipitous for the colonizer because they came along to do their thing, and then voila, you find a guy who's helping you in your quest to keep it moving.
Yes.
He was like, this is
But
easy.
for
Let's
him to
go.
help, it means it's something we had been doing ourselves.
Yeah.
Yes. See, we don't talk about it enough, but we did. You see, when you have an entire nation who are captivated with a culture of complaint, there is a certain satisfaction you get from complaining. But does it help alleviate the problem you have? None.
Satisfaction from complaining.
Yes. Haven't you been in a group of people where all they're doing is pitching a fit the whole time and bitching? It's one complaint after another. And when you listen, you probably get a headache. Then you ask, okay, this thing that we're complaining about, how do we move the needle?
Exactly.
That question may be asked, but the response never features because our mind isn't tuned to asking, how do you solve this problem?
Yeah, exactly.
So we keep looking at the problem. Look, understand it, and then ask,
and then see how to fix it.
Yes. What do we do with this now? America long understood that.
Yes.
They were a colony like us. Okay? Australia was even worse. It was a
colony of thieves.
Penal colony.
Yes.
All the malcontents, the real hardcore that they didn't want, Australia.
Out.
They figured it out.
Yes, they figured it out.
You know, because you find yourself in a. But look at the great events 1, 2, 3 of history. The plague that you speak of.
Yes.
Is it not from the plague that you have some of the best medicines that we still use till today? Because they realized, wait a minute, this thing has killed so many people. We can figure out how to treat ourselves, or we can die.
The numbers were profound.
Profound people who died. The Great Depression, where they said, everything is falling apart. We cannot. What did they say? You said, you know what? We're going to have to start to build from inside. And if we don't do this, we will die. Look at Ireland. There was a famine. They said, okay, what do we have? They found this round thing in the ground that people can eat. It is a potato. We'll grow it until today. Ireland has reserves for 5 years, any time of food. What am I saying? You see this aid that we're all complaining now that people are doing press conferences that they've said they're going to remove? It is a good thing for us. You know why? It is going to force us to do 2 things. Number 1, get it together and fix your economies. And number 2, stop this over-dependence on people who, the truth of the matter is, they don't care about you.
Yeah.
What they're trying to do is make sure that you are in a... Look at the nations that they mess with. Look at the countries that they mess with. You must have something that is going to be of their benefit. And that's why they mess with you in the first place. So be the person on the table as well. And that's what I'm saying. It is a good thing that they pull the aid. They should continue so that it forces you to be in a situation where you do something about the problem.
And you stand up.
The guy who created the light bulb have said, boss, we cannot even see what we are doing. Can we create a situation so that we have something hanging from our house and we switch it on and we can now see?
You know, when I understood what City was saying, where we like complaining and doing nothing about it. One time I was driving. I was headed towards the Goreti market. And I saw this beautifully dressed person. And they were comfortably standing right in front of the biggest heap of garbage I've ever seen. The irony was stark. You know, when you dress elegantly, you go to an elegant place. But if you are comfortable, being personally elegant, presented in trash, then you understand what the African problem is. There used to be a governor in Kenya, and he went for, what was it called back then? Benchmarking.
A governor as in the current governor as in Kenyan governor of a county, or
Yes,
governor
Kenyan governor
who was ruling the whole country?
Kenyan new constitution governor.
County.
Not mention his name. He went to a European country, right, to go do benchmarking. And from head to toe, he had worn fake Gucci clothes. There's nothing wrong with wearing fake Gucci clothes. But to understand the mindset that tells you that is an appropriate way of representing Africa, tells you the bench he went to mark was left without any mark.
Since when is benchmarking supposed to bring about change?
The thought is that you're going to come back and do something with that.
It's what it's called, because it's what you can justify. You can justifiably place before any board that's going to look at the expenditure. Okay? So benchmarking, we hear it. It's an interesting word. It covers a multitude of all manner of things. But there it is. Whatever it is that Trump is doing, please bear this in mind. He's doing it because he believes that will benefit his people.
Yes.
Primarily his co-constituency. And when he says the things he's saying, it is them he's speaking of. Some of these things about deportation and what have you, they'll be enthusiastic now. Give it time, the enthusiasm will die down. If you look at farm work in America and you look at the industrial nature of it, if he did 11 million undocumented individuals, 11 million, you remove all these people and look at how the productivity of America, they just wait till stand. Who do you think does all that back-breaking work that they have?
There you go.
Who? So, policy we've heard. There'll be movement. A few people will likely leave. But the large number of undocumented people who are in the States will not go anywhere.
Not go anywhere.
Okay? This is political talk. So, let's not be too harsh on our own president in saying he makes promises. Watch what will happen from the promises that he has made and the policies that he has made.
You know when I knew for a fact what you're saying is true? The number of billionaires there represented a net worth of $1 trillion. Let me tell you, there's two sides of Trump. There's the one that says cats and dogs are being eaten by Haitians, and there's the one that knows that billionaires need to make more billions. And if you remember the tax cuts he made when he, in his first term, promising that they would affect the average American, it is only Elon Musk, Bezos, who benefited. I honestly think that this is a magic trick. The magic trick is this: for the religious and ultra-American base, he will pander to them. But economically, we are about to see one of the biggest transfer of wealth from the poor to the wealthy.
And let's see how that goes. But we need to be at a place whereby we're actually thinking and operating for ourselves. And these conversations need to continue. Liberation of mind, top of the agenda. Let's continue with these conversations. And we'll be looking at revolution and how it may be eating its children. That happens with Wakili at 9. Good morning, 9 a.m.
Spice up your life.
Good morning, this is the News Wire. I'm La Bagawell. For a couple of other days, you'll be forced to dress warmly as the rainfall currently being experienced in several parts of the country is expected to continue throughout the week. According to the Kenya Meteorological Department, heavy rains will be received in Central Highlands, Western Kenya, Lake Victoria Basin, Rift Valley and Southeastern Lowlands until Sunday. It, however, forecast that most parts of the coast, northeastern and northwestern Kenya are likely to be generally sunny and dry, although a few areas may experience occasional rainfall. Many areas in Nairobi, that is the capital city, are grappling with flash floods which have been attributed to the poor drainage system. Education stakeholders continue to blame the government over delayed disbursement of capitation owed to schools, citing how frustrated they are. This comes as the Ministry of Education reported that the government has released 19 billion shillings for capitation, with secondary schools yet to receive their share of the funds. Kisumu County Secretary of NAD, David Obon, says suppliers of various institutions of goods and services have been pressing for their debts to be paid, a situation that puts them in the balance of whether to pay debts or use the money to continue services in schools.
The suppliers who are helping them put up infrastructures do not have their money captured in the disbursement. So what else happens? It is therefore they're being forced. If the suppliers insist, they need to mean that our heads and board of management will be forced to go for environment. And if they go for environment from one voter to the other, it will cause the whole confusion and mix-up.
Education Cabinet Secretary Julius Migos, however, has assured stakeholders that the government will distribute 14 billion shillings by the end of this week. However, Cashier National Chairperson Willie Kuria said if the funds are not disbursed, then educational activities will be disrupted.
The disbursement is ongoing under installments because of the financial challenges that the government is facing, but we are ensuring that we are releasing funds to the schools to ensure that they are able to continue. So this week, as we speak, 14 billion is being processed.
We are really hopeful that this will happen because you take into account that last year there was a deficit of 7,000. So they are existing debts. So what we are waiting for, we are actually waiting to pay debts so that we can get more debts.
Remember the incident that happened last year of a fake fertilizer which later led to the former CS Mithika Linturi being affected? Well, this year it's a bit different, as farmers in Kitale have expressed satisfaction with the quality of fertilizer and pesticides they've purchased from the region's National Cereals and Produce Board office. According to some farmers we spoke to, they attributed this distribution of fertilizer, this distribution to actually large quantities of the fertilizer by NCPB in their warehouses, as well as the exit of middlemen.
Majina yangu ni Helen Wamalwa, kulima kutoka Sirende. Ninashukuru kwa sababu mwaka huu tumepata mbolea mapema. Tukienda tukiitumia ni ile yenye itakuwa mbolea nzuri ya kupanda. Matarajio yangu tutapata chakula vizuri kwa sababu tumepata mbolea mapema, tutalima mapema na tutapanda na ile mvua ya kwanza itatupatia mavuno.
Tena leo hiyo mbolea ile mbaya kama makajana hii hakuna. Kwa hivyo sina prai, hata mvua naona menyesa sasa. Wakulima chimbieni, chukua mbolea. Hakuna laini, hakuna maneno mingi.
Mimi naitwa David Wafula, natoka lima shamba eka 100. Rais amejaribu sana kwa sababu mbolea imekuja kwa wakati. Mbolea inaongoja mkulima kwa saa hii.
The board's manager, Milka Lunani, said that approximately 50,000 farmers are being targeted while appropriate strategies are being put in place in collaboration with the county government to distribute the fertilizer to constituencies to reduce the cost of production for farmers.
Last year, we served more than 20,000 farmers, but this time our target is over 50,000 because mbolea iko ya kutosha and farmers are turning up in large numbers every day as the season approaches. Process ya hii mwaka, we really appreciate the government kwa sababu kuna flow ya mbolea kuanzia mwezi wa 7 throughout. Next week, government itakuwa imechukua hiyo zoezi la last mile. Assurance kwa farmers ni kwamba this time round, mbolea inawangojea, inawasubiria kwa magala zetu.
That's the News Wire. I'm Lea Ubaga.
.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Are you a young person looking to unlock your potential? Are you ready to take the future in your hands? If so, then listen up. KCB to Jejiri is the plan. It's designed to empower young people like you, develop skills and knowledge you need to succeed in life. KCB to Jejiri combines vocational skills training, business development training, access to finance and business mentorship, preparing youth for jobs, entrepreneurship and wealth creation. Don't be left out. Visit kcbgroup.com/foundation to learn more.
A very busy morning in Nairobi today, and we're looking at quite some traffic still in many parts of the city today. Coming off the Eastern Bypass, Outer Ring, in and outbound traffic is doing the thing today, and it's quite busy. Also looking at traffic that's going then towards the Cabanas interchange, and that's going to be a whole mess for folks who are coming off Mombasa Road or those who are trying to get off of Outer Ring and find their way. Very busy on Mombasa Road still as you're heading out towards the Nyeri Stadium roundabout and then heading towards the city. It still have some traffic coming through towards Survey on the Thika Superhighway coming in from Kiambu Road, and also on Limuru Road coming in from Gigiri. So those parts of the city still some traffic, and we are still in traffic hour. Let's see what happens as it all opens up, and we'll talk to each other, shall we? To keep things moving, SpiceFM KE on X, hashtag the Situation Room.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM.
7 minutes after 9 o'clock into the final hour of Kenya's biggest conversation this Wednesday. And even as we get into it, we remind ourselves that, you know what, it is very clear that there's a gap every now and then. 1 million young people enter into the job market every year. And when that happens, sadly, from this million, there are many who don't have the skills and talents to make up. Maybe they may have dropped out of school. Maybe they didn't finish for one reason or the other. And what we need to do is ensure that they do get the skills and the talent that they need so they can enter into the world of entrepreneurship. The KCB Foundation saw this gap, and under the 2G Ajiri program have said, you know what, let's now provide a lot of these young people between the age of 18 and 35 with the skills that they need in a 6-month program, after which you get a toolkit to start off in whatever sector it is that you studied in. Whether it's construction, basic engineering, photography and film, beauty and design, along those lines. And then let's also give you a little bit of money to the tune of, in the hundreds of millions that they've given out in loans to be able to start off businesses. So under the 2G Ajiri program, the skills and talents are matched with opportunity, and you get a chance to start small businesses as well as enter into jobs that you didn't have the opportunity to do before. You want to know more information about that? Go to www.kcbgroup.com/foundation. This hour, we're going to be talking about the revolution. In case you didn't know, there's a revolution that is taking place in the hearts and minds of many people, and it's manifested physically and mentally for a lot of people. To help us out into that conversation and to see exactly what we're talking about, Wakili Evans Ogada is an advocate and law lecturer and editor-in-chief of the Platform for Law, Justice and Society, and he's our guest this hour. We talk about the law and constitution. Is the revolution eating its own children? Wakili, good morning.
Good morning, and my apologies.
Why are you sorry?
The rain in Nairobi.
I know. It's raining, it's pouring. The old man is snoring.
Thinking about the future, we need to do mass transportation below ground. This is not sustainable.
Yeah, it doesn't work.
Anyway, we are here.
We are here, and we're happy that we could be here in the hot seat for the first time.
No, I've been here before.
Not for the first time. For the first time this year.
For the first time this year, yes.
Yes. So I just had to make that clear. And so we're glad that you can be here. But let's welcome you properly.
Thank you.
With today's proverb. And then you can tell us what you think about it and how you would interpret it.
Okay.
Rain notwithstanding.
Rain is important even with regards to this particular proverb. We are in the United Republic of Tanzania.
Mm-hmm.
A fruit tree that grows in a dung heap will certainly blossom.
Well, a dung heap provides nutrients. This is organic manure. So whereas the rest of us might be offended by the putrefying smell, that tree benefits from the dung as organic manure, and it certainly thrives.
All dung is not waste.
Yes.
Indeed.
All dung is not made the
same. Okay.
All right. It's true. All dung is not waste. Okay. So when we're talking about the revolution eating its children, we've heard sentiments about this, whether they be from politicians, whether it be from, I want to be careful not to say, used to be opposition, whatever the case may be. That, first of all, let's start from the place of, is there a revolution actually happening in Kenya at this point in time? When we look at the constitution and what it is supposed to provide for in this country, and we say that that's not happening, and as a result of that, people start to say, you know what, this is not what the Supreme Law says, and then we see a revolt. Is that how you would describe things currently happening in Kenya?
Well, we are seeing a lot of shifts. We are seeing a lot of changes that a lot of people don't know how to handle. Correctly, we had our, could I say, our inchoate political revolution that the political class found a way of nipping in the bud temporarily. That is last year in June. Nonetheless, the tectonic plates that informed that spirit that led our very many young people onto the street still is reverberating. And it is informed by issues of malgovernance, corruption, and generally a don't care attitude from the politicians. So unless the politicians stop speaking at us and pontificating morals. The other day we were being told that our parents need to teach the young ones morals. The politicians need to think of ethics, and ethics for us is contained in the Constitution, which they have not dealt with. They have not abided by the rules and the norms in the Constitution. Yes.
Okay. And as a result of the things that you're saying, is when people now will say, well, you know, this can't be, this is not on. And as a result of that is when we see that a revolt would take place, whether it's in the mind or it's on the street.
Certainly, because you see, you can't, the kind of spending we are seeing, we have, for example, I will ask you, why do we need a number of state houses and lodges across the country that are hardly occupied? We spend a lot of money, billions of shillings every year for renovation. Yet people go to hospital and they can't get medicine. People are dying because of simple tests. I mean, we need to ask ourselves about Project Kenya, honestly, because we can't have a political class that is impervious to what is happening. And look at the telltale signs are there. We are no longer the lead trade nation in the region. Tanzania has effectively overtaken us. Look at the indices that matter in terms of development. Look at our average age. Cancer today is a problem in this country. Nobody is having that conversation. Our youth, we have so many universities churning all manner of degrees. These people are coming out of the job market. There are no jobs to do. So we need to have a serious conversation, and the politicians need to stop vomiting on our shoes.
They won't stop.
They have to.
Won't stop, don't stop.
No, they won't stop.
They have to.
They won't stop because we are the ones who are their enablers. When you call a meeting and people attend, you are enabling that conversation.
Well, for now,
when you have monies that are allocated at this one, forget national level, county level, constituency level, and it's supposed for a specific purpose. That purpose is not achieved, and yet the people who work in that office either buy new cars or build new houses, and you know very well what it is they are paying.
Correct.
We say nothing. Yeah, we are enabling them. So, as far as I'm concerned, any social ill that we see, the young people who clearly were feeling the brunt of it, you're educated, there's no job. That you can live with if you know there's a job in the future. But if you can't even see the future, it means hope dead.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
The real change that we are talking about took place a long time ago. It was waiting for us to actualize it. It's called the Constitution.
Yes.
That, the Constitution, by its very existence, is revolutionary.
Mm-hmm.
It's supposed to overturn things. The people who are preventing it is not our politicians, it's us. We can't hold our MPs, our MCAs to account. And it is them who implement the provisions, the thoughts, the spirits of the Constitution. So how is it then that it is their fault when these fellows, the moment they get their job, they are wired to look after their own interests? I mean, we know this, we say it. The only way they stop is when we stop them. And how we stop them is we hold them to account. We don't want to. So, this change we're talking about, when is it going to come? Never.
And you know, CT, government has three arms, right? There's been a lot of blame and hue and cry on the executive. There's been a lot of blame and hue and cry on the legislature. And then, maybe a month now, the Supreme Court, Lady Justice Martha Koome, is on sharp focus. Ahmed Nasir, Grand Mula, Nelson Harvey. And I keep thinking, all right, so far, when I look at the revolution of the Gen Zs, the courts have been the ones who've been summoning DCI, etc. to say, where are these people, and things like that. So for a long time, I thought at least there's one branch of government that is holding a candle against the darkness that CT has put across quite well. Is the judiciary equally to blame?
Are the members of the judiciary Kenyans?
That's what I want to know.
Well, I'll not be here to give a rosy picture of the judiciary. We have a problem.
Yeah.
And the perception revolving around corruption and incompetence, those are issues that the judiciary must address. To give a broad brush and paint the judiciary as entirely problematic will be mean of me, because I know of one or two judicial officers who have striven throughout the years to make sense of our lives here in this country. We have judges in the Constitutional Court who have once in a while given us decisions that have been uploaded locally and out there, and generally trying to make life easier for Kenyans. Those are there. But the concerns that are being addressed, the direction of the Supreme Court, those are genuine concerns, and the judiciary, headed by the Chief Justice and the Supreme Court, must address those issues. Is it correct the way they have been deciding on certain issues? Certainly. Some of us have been lamenting on so many issues, including how decisions have been determined.
Give us examples.
We have the language that was used in the presidential election, and we are all Kenyans. You remember the hot air language, eh? That has been used against the Chief Justice regularly. I don't know what led them to use that language in that decision. That was something that should have been avoided. We have the latest Finance 23 decision from that court.
Yes.
What they structured in terms of public participation, that was a clawback on the Constitution. So we have a number of decisions from that court and elsewhere that claw back on the Constitution. And to address your concerns, just as juxtaposing our concerns against the constitution and relating it to what City was saying. We may have a good constitution, but if we don't nurture this constitution for it to blow up to its full potential, we will go the Weimar constitution way. The Weimar constitution in Germany, a very good constitution, ushered in August of 1919. But when Germans forgot that this constitution had laudable provisions that needed to have been nurtured, and they dropped the ball. The dropping of the ball led to Hitler, the Third Reich. And if, like City was correctly saying, if the citizens don't remain vigilant, we remind the politicians that there is a constitution that you must abide with. The judiciary remembers that it's the guardian of the constitution. We will certainly go the Weimar constitution way, because the Weimar constitution had a Bill of Rights, it had a republican form of government, it had very laudable provisions. But when we had a parliament that was ineffective like ours now, that created weak laws to undermine the constitution, and people gave a pass to the politicians, that led to Hitler, and we know what happened.
So now here we are, and essentially, when we speak of a revolution, we think about it a lot of times in a series of events over a week, a month, a year, whatever it is. And the assumption is that after that period of time, that there are certain things that you arrive at that you now implement into change, without realizing that it's possible for revolution to happen over a prolonged period of time, at different stages and at different levels with different actors. Many would say that a revolution in the minds of people led to the 2010 constitution, that we said, you know what, it cannot continue like this, and there must be a supreme law that takes everybody into consideration, putting the people of Kenya at the top, at the sovereign, as the sovereign rather. So when we speak about the things that we do, when we talk about, weak laws made by Parliament, abrogation of rights of the sovereign as enshrined in the Constitution. When we talk about not being able to provide for your people, abrogation of rights of the people of Kenya as enshrined in the Constitution. So the revolution that was fought, that arrived at the Constitution, birthed certain things. But essentially what we are saying right now is that what is happening, that the Constitution should have been able to protect if it was actually upheld, is not happening. And so the children of revolution essentially are being consumed.
Well, there's definitely a resistance to the normative strength of the Constitution. And like we always have with a good number of revolutions, there are always the counter-revolutions. So, for example, the old order, old money, old political habits, these are people who are not going to be happy with you being emancipated and asking questions.
Tinkering with the power balance. Which is tilted in their favor.
Because these people are used to having the largesse of money. They control the shots, they control the police and the arms of violence. But when you and I, as ordinary citizens, use our strength under the Constitution and push back, and meaningfully so, that is always a threat to status quo. So we should not be blind to the fact that these powers will try to push back. You saw when the Gen Z protest happened, what happened? The political elite came back and formed a cabal, pushed back. They ganged up. Yes. So we must be alive to that. But the beauty about the 2010 Constitution, and perhaps this is the most profitable bit of this Constitution, and I cannot authoritatively speak about it because I was involved in the BBI case. This is a Constitution that you'll not amend easily. It's not like the 1969 Constitution that you'll sit in Parliament and amend the way you want. So you may tinker with some of its provisions, play around, have your lackeys in Parliament, try and do things the way they want. At one point, we will have good men and women in the judiciary who will see what needs to be done, and they will restore the strength of the Constitution.
Actually, that is where I will differ with you. And not because you're wrong, I'll differ because I have a different perspective. This emphasis on having good men and women is where we go wrong. People may be inherently good given the circumstances in the ecosystem you find themselves in. Our political processes have shown us that when that ecosystem changes, even these good people cease to be good. We missed a point in the process of ushering in a new constitution. We missed the point of entrenching the idea that this constitution must be protected. That there are people who are going to go out of their way to ensure that they violate it at every turn.
Yes.
The Uhuru Kenyatta government did their best to do this. The protectors of the constitution have to be the sovereign.
Yes.
And we must guard this against the people we elect. It sounds like a contradiction, but the very people we elect to do, those are people we must guard these things against. Because the old habits you spoke of, the old processes and the things they are accustomed to are what they'd like to continue with because it is beneficial to them. And when you insist on change and the inherent benefit to the public, that is not in their interest. So it will constantly and consistently be fought. We must guard the constitution.
You know, on that point, let me take you back to the judiciary. I have heard many times people say that judges are corrupt. So the bench is corrupt. But is it corrupt without the bar?
Is it corrupt on its own?
Yes.
Certainly, members of the bar, my own colleagues, we peddle. We are part of the conveyor belt of corruption. That I will not deny. And what I will encourage the public to do is this. Please reach out to the authorities. Social media is out there.
Wait. In this case, which authorities?
There is the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission.
Oh, okay.
The DCI. And if you're bold enough, I mean, people are doing a lot of accountability action on social media. Share those information. Share the information with the Law Society of Kenya. I am certain action will take place because one thing that people don't like is the light being shown on them. So if you're a corrupt lawyer doing underhand things, I mean, if the light is shown on you, you'll certainly have a date with the LSK.
But without mentioning names,
yes,
some of whom are even petitioning against the Supreme Court, some of whom, I didn't mention a name, just because you know, does not mean I said.
Clear your throat. Clear your throat, Mark.
So, the spotlight has been shown on them, right? In fact, there are debates every day on Twitter among the legal fraternity saying you only win cases because of this. You only are complaining because of this. My pain, when you talk about parliament, you talk about the executive, you talk about the judiciary, it sounds so academic to me that I really wonder what is the practical solution that a Kenyan can say if we begin a revolution in our judicial system. This is how we'll go about it, and that's how we'll get it. Because if I have a case, honestly, and there's a good lawyer, or there's a lawyer who can bribe and get me out, who am I hiring?
You as Mark, or just general?
Not general.
Okay.
I don't have a case, thank God. If I would choose, I'd imagine the lawyer who guarantees me, give me $1 million bob, and I get off my murder charge.
I can tell you this for a fact, that those who have always chosen the narrow path of bribery to get results don't last long in this profession. Those who do 30, 40 years, those who have a name and who confidently walk in the public light, those are people who have kept it clean. I'm talking of Firoz Norji. The other day we had the late Judith Ongori. We have people like Yashpal Gai, people who have kept it clean. And Firoz Norji always reminds me, keep it clean. It benefits in the long term. If you look at, and perhaps the LSK is not doing a good job in terms of publicity, we've had a couple of lawyers struck off. I know, for example, a very good friend of mine who is no longer practicing law in this country because he was struck off 2 years ago. And those relates to issues of bribery, clients' money, and to the public, so that we don't make this academic. There's an office on the 13th floor of Cooperative House, the Advocates Complaint Commission. It's a very accessible office. If you have anything about corruption with the lawyers, go to the Advocates Complaints Commission, table your evidence. Because you see, some of these allegations also, people make them, but maybe you've lost or you're not happy about one or two, three things. Take your evidence to the Advocates Complaints Commission, and trust me, even the long-standing lawyers of so many years seasoned, we don't like an audience before that committee.
It's not a place to
trust
be.
me.
Right.
Trust me.
We're having a conversation this hour with Wakili Evans Ogada, and we're asking ourselves certain questions that, even as the revolutions take place, even as we start to have these conversations here and there and say, okay, guys, are we eating the results that we should actually tread on to step up and take a step up? And we continue with that when we come back from this break at 29 minutes to 10 o'clock. It continues after this.
Thank you.
Situation Room, the only way to start your day. The weather with SpiceFM.
18 degrees and cloudy conditions in Nairobi. We'll see highs of 23 and highs of 24 in a cloudy Nakuru at 17. We're looking into a mostly cloudy Nyeri, going to highs of 24, and we'll see highs of 22 in a cloudy Eldoret. It's 30 and sunny, going to highs of 33 in Mombasa, and we'll see highs of 32 in a sunny Malindi. Kisumu at 21 is cloudy with highs of 27, while Kakamega at 21 is cloudy, going to highs of 27 as well. Sunny in Kampala at 22 with highs of 28, while Dar es Salaam at 29 is mostly sunny. Johannesburg at 19, sunny, going to highs of 29, and Mogadishu at 29 is sunny, going to highs of 31. 18 in Addis Ababa, going to highs of 23, while Lagos is cloudy at 27. Kinshasa is sunny at 23. Beijing at 2 degrees is sunny, while Paris at 7 is mostly cloudy, and London at 5 cloudy as well. We'll round things out in New York, where it's mostly cloudy at 2 degrees with highs of 8 and lows of -4.
Sugar and spice and everything nice. Spice FM.
Spice up your life.
All right, continues this morning, and traffic kind of dying down in certain parts, but I think we've had quite a busy morning. We should be able to get through it now without any issues, as most folks have gotten where they need to go, at least for parts of this morning, but likely to continue in some parts. Just a little bit left of that coming off of the Thika Superhighway towards Muranga Road, but everything else seems to be down to a dull roar. We'll keep talking through the morning. Spice FM, KE on X.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4.
7 minutes to 10. We continue with Wakili Evans Ogada, and we're looking at, let's look at how you would interpret things when we look at the Constitution and what it ought to provide, and when we see certain things happening in the country with the law, whereby you're not able to now know who's on which side. And I think we've heard cries about this from members of the public, members of particular parties that were supposed to have formed part of the opposition, who are now crying about, our members have formed part of government. Constitutionally, who's supposed to be protected? And when you say that we've gone so far, we've tried so hard to get to the place where we are, and somehow a government which you say, for example, eats up a weak parliament, how then do you ensure that the proceeds of that revolution, which, for example, formed the Constitution, are protected?
Well, number one, and I'll try to encourage City not to lose hope entirely.
Oh, I'm a very hopeful person.
we are constantly pushing the boundaries within the courts to maintain sanity in this country. There's a reason why the courts are called the guardians of the Constitution. And that notion that you didn't quite agree with, of good men and women, has some value in this sense. You will find, and I speak this from a point of knowledge, we have one or two, a good number of judicial officers who caucus among themselves and have the spirit and heart of making changes. You will not see them. They will not have the camera or the microphone before them, but these people have constantly remained consistent in terms of maintaining the values of the Constitution. A good number were plucked from the High Court and went to the Court of Appeal. So we may not feel and hear from them constantly as we used to do, but trust me, when things go south and they don't agree with even amongst themselves, I know for a fact they usually meet and they call the house to order. So we will have hope that that will happen. For us in the Law Society, we will continue doing what we have been doing. I can report to you, for example, the day before yesterday, we were in court, and we have about 7 cases just dealing with abductions. We go back on Friday on those cases. We will continue asking those questions and pushing those boundaries, because if everybody says, let's let it be. I mean, people cannot live in this country. Look at the taxes that are imposed on us. We started with something that was called the minimum tax. Yeah. So the minimum tax, what it meant was that whether you make profit or loss, there's a certain degree of taxes
you will pay taxes
that you will pay.
Whether you make money or not, you'll pay taxes.
And the judiciary agreed with us that that was illogical. And people are consistently asking questions about the tax area so that we can help Kenyans. Shah and this other, no, is it Schiff?
Schiff, yes, it's Schiff.
I know there are colleagues who are in court asking questions about that. The affordable housing, people are asking questions about that. So what we will probably ask the public is this. Lawyers and the Law Society may not be all over. Reach out to our offices at Gitanga Road. There's a secretariat there, there's a directorate there. Provide us with information, provide us with material that will trickle down to the council, and we will try and take action. Difficult, but we will try.
Some of your solutions are pointed directly to some very toothless dogs. Yes, you see, complain at which office?
Ombudsman.
Then I am thinking to myself, there's an American saying that to stop gun violence, all you need is one good guy with a gun. You remember that logic?
Mm-hmm.
I am not seeing a revolutionary solution. And we started from parliament, we went to executive, now we are in judiciary, and the things you're talking about. So as a Kenyan, where am I going to gather evidence against senior lawyer CT and his misdemeanors? You understand what I'm saying? It's academic.
Yes.
Actually, you can, because lawyers don't function in a vacuum.
Mm-hmm.
They live with us, and it's in the process of executing their practice that these misdeeds occur.
Yes.
Okay? The willingness to report is a different matter. But, Wakili.
Yes.
I raised the question, and I expressed, or I intimated, and I cast aspersions on your profession. Look at what it has elicited. You have given a good account of yourselves. Yes. All I did was raise it, and you have come out and said, no, guys, it's not quite like that. My reference point was not to the legal fraternity.
Mm-hmm.
It was to the politicians.
Yes.
And I focus on them because so much depends on them.
True.
So much depends on them. Whether it is our laws, whether all these things that we seem to talk about, it's like it doesn't dawn on them that actually the burden they have on their shoulders is huge. Huge. by simply making certain laws that would be useful. They change so much laws. By throwing in those little things they like on these omnibus laws where this is what you think is happening, then they've thrown something in there which you didn't even know about, and it is passed. And then when someone tells you there's a law, you ask, what? When was that law passed? It is them that I was referring to.
Okay.
And it is them that I was saying primarily, you guys are secondary to this issue, primarily, they must be held to account, and you don't let the guard down, because assuming that they are good, we've seen people whom we know to be good, they get in there. Hey. It's someone completely different.
Yes. I almost, even as you say that, then I almost hear, and I hear Mark saying as well that we don't seem to have a surefire, fiery way to end a lot of the nonsense that we see taking place, and that the only way to get to start again is to blow everything to smithereens, and then get to the place where you're starting to build. That we seem to want to coddle the solutions and say, okay, well, maybe we can do it this way, and then that's how we get a solution. But I think about the surgeon who's taken his knife to cancer. He doesn't coddle the thing and say, okay, how about I cut parts of you out today, and then I will cut another part of you out maybe when you're feeling a little bit more comfortable.
Report you to the Cancer Complaints Board.
I'll come and I'll say, okay, let's see how we can have a conversation and say, maybe if I speak to you, cancer, will you stop growing in my patient? It doesn't really work like that. He cuts the thing out, and then he proceeds to blast it with radiotherapy, chemotherapy, and make sure that it doesn't come back. But we seem to not want to deal with our problems like that. We don't want to deal with corruption like that. We don't want to deal with poor leadership and governance like that. We don't. We want to coddle the thing and pet it and hope that it'll get better tomorrow, and hope that it will help me tomorrow. We don't want the surefire way to deal with
we are complicit in most of these things in our own little way. And the way we human beings are wired, we know that even when a spotlight is shone on something massive, who knows, it might tilt and shine in our direction. And we don't really want, this delightful hypocrisy that is part of is entrenched in our culture.
It's very nice.
Yes, we are actually comfortable with our corruption so long as it doesn't work against us.
That's why I have a problem with people who are saying now that the revolution is eating its children. Well, of course it's eating its children. What do you expect is going to happen? Because you've taken the children and you've put them in the den over there, and you know that in that den, there are baby wolves. What are baby wolves called? They are cubs. And then the cub will not grow into a child. It grows into a wolf, and it will eat your children. What do you expect?
We are certainly facing a struggle. I'll not be here to deny the obvious. And as CT correctly says, the politicians have largely contributed to the misery we are in. And that is for obvious reasons. You'll not expect these fellas with, you see, look at the figures we see on TV. Yes. They give us I used to sell charcoal story. I used to have a butchery.
Chicken.
Chicken.
The chicken. I used to be an egg seller. And in a period of 10, 15 years, these people are billionaires.
Yes.
Another problem that has also to be pointed out, and we have to be honest about, we have what we call Chapter 15 offices, the independent constitutional offices. These offices were ideally meant to be a counterweight to the traditional three branches. What the politicians have since learned to do, and it's not only limited to the current regime, the Uhuru regime, partly in the Kibaki regime, they have neutered the independence of these offices by appointing acolytes. So you find people who are there, probably former politicians, relatives of people close to power.
Somebody who needs a favor.
Yes. Yeah. So the effect of that is that if you look at the Kibaki, the first 2-3 years of the Kibaki presidency, these offices were very powerful and were calling out things. You remember Kenya Human Rights Commission and the Maina and all that. These people used to call out things.
We even had a PS whose job was to do exactly what we were saying.
The ethics, my good friend Gidongo.
Yes, and we saw how that went, didn't we?
Yes. But progressively, the politicians have been trying to claw back on the potency of these institutions by appointing people of very dubious backgrounds. And what that has meant is that these offices are now being reoriented to think and behave as if they are part and parcel of traditional government. My job here as a lawyer is to remind them that they have a constitutional role under Chapter 15 and will be holding you to account. I know, for example, people have gone to court. The recommendations and investigations by, for example, the Office of the Ombudsman are not mere recommendations today. So my friend Charles Dulo, who is the new, my learned friend Charles Dulo, who is now the new Ombudsman, knows very well that he will make recommendations and those recommendations are binding. So it will be
Binding
up for him to do. Binding on whoever he makes the recommendations on.
Okay, let me give you an example, Evans. For example, now, the courts.
Yes.
One would assume, please stop me if I'm wrong.
Yes.
But one would assume that the courts and orders that they make are binding.
Yes.
Isn't it?
Yes.
The court pronounces itself on a particular matter and says, this is what you must do. It is what?
Binding.
Binding.
Yes.
Are there certain individuals within Kenya's borders upon which a court order, for example, is not binding?
Those orders are binding.
No, but I'm saying, is there anybody upon which an order is not binding?
No, everybody.
Okay, but what have we seen in the recent, this year, let's not even talk about last year, the years before. The court will pronounce itself 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times on one matter. And the folks upon which this pronouncement has been made don't bother. For them, it's a suggestion. Oh, they want me to show up. Okay, I have other things that I'm doing.
Someone did to court and did not appear.
Yes. I have other things to do. I'm a bit busy, so maybe I'll see you later. Then on the last day when they've said you will go to jail or whatever it is that's going to happen to you, then suddenly you say, okay, I've got a minute. Then I come and say, actually, you know what? Your Honor, I was busy. Please try and understand that, we have issues that we have to deal with. And then the court says, it's okay, I forgive you, but don't ever do that again. Are you kidding me?
I have been one of the most vocal against this culture of impunity, whereby we appear to be parading the story that there is one set of laws for Kubwa and for the hoi polloi.
But there must be. I'll give you another. Sorry, I'm very sorry.
Yes.
Because let me mirror that against a case that happened yesterday in Kitale, where a young woman, and it's just because this is one example, and they happen in their thousands every day, right?
Yes.
The same law.
Yes.
Who I don't know was selling alcohol. The
Changa.
Thank you. In a cultural establishment, as CT would say, after hours, right?
Yeah, see, those things are not they're meant to be sold after hours.
But she was arrested by whomever she was arrested by, taken into the very fast.
Yes.
Arrested. She said, please, you should understand, I have children to feed, blah, 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 please forgive me. Taken to court in the morning. Even before she could say, Gafla bin Vu, bring 5,000, she could not raise the 5,000 for the bond bail, whatever it was. Before that black vehicle, was reversing towards the court, she was taken to the farm prisons. No question, no I beg, no please sir, please don't pass, go collect 200, nothing. In the same country, we can have quick justice, right?
Is that really justice?
I'm just using justice because as per it comes from the court. On this other side, people can do things, flout right in the face of the same justice, and then you want to talk about how the society is judicially balanced. The revolution will eat its children.
Do go back to the previous government of Uhuru Kenyatta. That is where one started seeing absolute and clear disrespect for court rulings. Kabza.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, until you wonder,
Miguna.
Yes.
Where do we live?
Do you know do these guys know what they're setting in motion?
And one of the things, and I don't know whether I should be sorry to ask this or
don't
to say
apologize.
this.
Just say it.
You can apologize later.
Where this country sits, if we have another June 25th, 2024, I don't think they will stop until they're their own ombudsman, they're their own impeachers of parliamentarians,
and they are their own. The constitution will become the people. And I keep wondering to myself, if we keep sticking to this academic rigmarole we consistently subject Kenyans to, whether that Canaan we talked about many elections ago, that bottom up we talked many times, that tuko pamoja mbele we talked about, whether we shall really get there, or are we in the play called Waiting for Godot? Do you know that play?
I didn't read that one.
But by the way, Mark, we are making progress. You see, the people go benchmarking. For me, the moment Section 2A was repealed, see, that historical perspective is what gives me confidence.
Yeah.
Nobody knew we would be here.
Yes.
True.
At that time, even saying anything that remotely resembles a criticism, we
will have all been arrested by now.
There's so much that has changed. And it is all because it started somewhere. Multipartyism came in. People were willing to express. And even when unpleasant things are said, like yesterday I talked about changing presidential terms, and I was told that, it's a sensitive discussion. But we must have it. Who says we cannot talk about changing term limits? Why must it always appear like it's a negative thing? Everything that we have in the Constitution is subject to discussion. Everything can be discussed. There's nothing that we cannot discuss so long as it relates to our Constitution.
Correct.
Now, the truth is this. If we do not move away from understanding that delegating power doesn't mean that you've given someone a lifetime license to do what they like with the delegation you've given them. The understanding should revolve around understanding that vigilance is the key to delegation.
Correct.
I delegate, I am vigilant. And my vigilance must involve my keeping you to account for the power that I've given to you. Because it's mine, actually. But I've said, take care of it for me. Take it for a walk. Let it be aired from time to time. And if you're walking in a direction that I didn't ask you to, I'll tell you, you're not going to take back my power. Because I gave it to you specifically for certain purposes. The culture that we speak of, where we do not want to discuss uncomfortable things on both sides of the divide, that is what now one must battle. You see, the word revolutionary, one may say, can be loosely used. It was the liberation, let's liberate Zimbabwe. That was Bob Marley, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, it did a concert in Zimbabwe.
It was Cousin Bob's.
Yes.
Now, we have the tools to actualize the revolution. And the revolution is not moving around throwing stones and shouting. That's what I'm talking about. It's in your mind and understanding your role.
Yes.
That, to me, is the focus of the revolution. That you do not delegate powers and then you abrogate other functions that go with the delegation.
Correct. And that is why the play we called Waiting for Godot, so that you can answer.
Yes.
It's a 20-second explanation. Someone walks on stage, looks at his watch, waits for 5 minutes, and leaves the stage. It's called Waiting for Godot.
Okay.
Right?
Yes.
So, in your description, and to buttress his point, is it time we stopped waiting for Godot and realized we've arrived at this stage?
We must continue being vigilant. For this reason, and I always refer this book to politicians who are my friends. I tell them this openly.
Yeah.
It's a book by Darren Achemoglu and Robinson, Why Nations Fail.
Yes.
If you continue disrespecting court orders, if you continue undermining institutions, Kenya is not too big to fail. Right now, you're comfortable because you have a lot of money, you have the power, the police, and all that. I want people to remember Bangladesh, Sheikh Hasina.
Yes.
Very powerful lady.
Yes.
Extremely.
Extremely.
For generations.
Yeah.
Robert Mugabe. Very powerful. We had Idi Amin. Sani Abacha. The examples are many.
And so Vladimir Putin.
Vladimir Putin is also at risk. We had Hosni Mubarak in Egypt, who had the extra leverage of having American money and military support. When the streets uprise and when people are tired of you, not even the mightiest of guns will help you. So it is proper for you to respect the law, respect the institutions, and try to have a semblance of a country that is working. Because not even your money will help you. Your relatives are here, your families are here. Those will become mincemeat when the streets uprise and it becomes chaotic. So it is for your own selfish reason that Kenya must work.
You know, some of the Asian countries have an interesting dynastic, if I may use the Kenyan term, formation. Some of them have it in the military. So there's a pretense that there's a civilian government, but if the military cabal doesn't give you a nod, you're not going anywhere.
Yes.
And even that same military cabal can overthrow you. Now, if you look at Syria, this president who was deposed,
Assad,
that man trained as a medical doctor. Many people don't know this. Medical doctor. In the UK, he trained. He really tried to bring change. It's not that he didn't try. But the power in that country was in the military bosses. And the status quo, 30% of your budget goes to military. You're not supposed to question that. You're asking, guys, this 30%. 2011 is when problems began in Syria. It culminated in 2024.
Yes.
Okay? The point here is it culminated. There's a principle in politics that most people don't understand, yet they see it. It's called the role of chance. There are things that you take for granted, and then as you continue taking it for granted, a time arrives when the most unexpected thing happens.
Yes.
I'm going to give an example in our politics, and I'm looking, and I'm going to give an example of the Kibaki government. Kibaki and his grouping, as we're going into the 2002 elections, those guys were dead in the waters. They're not going anywhere. Now, what I'm about to say is challenged by many people who have a different version. So let me give my version. Then, the Kibaki Tosha moment came.
Yes.
And suddenly, Kibaki was at the forefront.
Yes.
Okay? That is not the role of chance I'm speaking of. The role of chance I'm speaking of is in the background. There's a gentleman called Kijana Wamalwa,
Yes.
okay, who was Kibaki's sort of like number two.
Yeah.
He was in Ford, Kenya. Jaramogi, around the time he was the boss,
Yes.
his deputy was actually somebody called
governor.
No, it's not a governor.
James,
No,
it was
he's a lawyer, not Orengo.
Muite?
Thank you.
Oh yeah, it was Muite.
It was Muite.
Yes.
Muite resigned. Kijana Wamalwa moved. He was second deputy. Okay? He was in Ford, Kenya. Ford, Kenya was generally also going nowhere. Come the Kibaki Tosha. Who is number two? Who becomes vice president?
Kijana Wamalwa.
Had Muite not resigned, would all that have happened?
No.
The role of chance. When you're in leadership, it can work for you and can work against you.
Final words, Wakili?
Final word. Kenyans, let us continue being vigilant. I know it's complicated, it's difficult, sometimes it's bloody annoying, but let us, particularly my generation and the young ones who are in the streets that I absolutely admire and respect, please let's keep at it. We cannot let the fortunes of this country be at the whims and calls of politicians. We have to stand up for our country.
Indeed. That's the Clarion Call, and it's been part of the conversations that we had today and those that we will continue to have. Wakili Evans Ogada, thank you for being our guest this morning.
Thank you.
The conversations continue tomorrow, 6 a.m. God willing. Good morning. It's 10 a.m.
Spice up your